What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 7C Chapter 161. Rukia returns to campus. Hey, what kind of clothes is this? It's so strange. Madarame Makaku looked at the clothes on his body and said, holding a wooden knife in his hand, because in this world, you can't bring a knife to the street at will, so Madarame Makaku looked for it. A wooden knife was used instead, at least people with a wooden knife would be strange, but they would not pay too much attention. Ayasagawa Yumichika held a mirror in his hand and said to himself, Captain Hitsugaya, it's really strange. Although this dress looks a bit like a uniform, no matter what, it's very uncomfortable to wear. Yeah, Captain? Matsumoto Rangaku looked at the tight uniform on his body and said, it's too tight, Rukia-chan, isn't there a bigger one? Rukia looked at Matsumoto Rangaku's upper body. No, it should be said that on the chest, the huge chest directly tightened the uniform, turned his head, did not look at Matsumoto Rangaku's chest and said, this is my original clothes, for you, of course it's too small. Well, forget it. Matsumoto Rangaku said unconcernedly. That's it. Matsumoto Rangaku looked at Hitsugaya Deshiro and said, then Captain, what are we going to do next? Does it need to be said? Hitsugaya Deshiro said directly. First go to Arisawa Tatsuki. She is Shinigami's agent, then she must know more about the current situation than we do. And Zanpakuto's betrayal, after killing the last sword beast Mistakaze. Zanpakuto has also changed back to its original state. But the Soul Society has not fully recovered yet. If Aizen attacks now, we will be very disadvantaged, so before the Soul Society fully recovers, we must find a way to delay it for a while. Speaking of Hitsugaya Deshiro, he stopped talking, but in his heart, Hitsugaya Deshiro silently said, because of this, we will be sent to this world. The purpose is to make Aizen think that our current strength has been completely restored, so that in a short period of time, we will be sent to this world. Don't dare to act rashly during the time. With a pop, I saw a small object smashed on Hitsugaya Deshiro's forehead. Since Hitsugaya Deshiro had just entered the corpse, he had not yet fully adapted, so he did not respond for a while, and was directly smashed on the ground, on the head. Oh, it's true? Matsumoto Rangaku's complaining voice sounded in front of Hitsugaya Deshiro at the same time. Hitsugaya Deshiro fixed his eyes and saw that the button on Matsumoto Rangaku's chest had been broken, and a small part of the top of the breasts was directly exposed. A deep cleavage, any person, if a man sees it, I am afraid they will be deeply attracted to it. Of course, there are exceptions, such as Ayasagawa Yumichika, who is only obsessed with himself and beautiful things, who has no interest in these, but is only interested in the beauty that it represents, and Madarame Makaku, a fighter, who is like Zaraki Kenpachi, his mind is full of fighting, and he has no interest in women and the like. Forget it, that's it. Matsumoto Rangaku casually pulled his clothes, and now it looks like the clothes on Matsumoto Rangaku's body are the same as the Deathlord outfit she passed down in Soul Society, but the Deathlord outfit and student uniform are after all. There are still differences, but not much. CGBE, Matsumoto Rangaku pulled his clothes and said, but Rukia-chan, why do we have to wear this kind of clothes? Why don't we just wear a Death Tyrant costume? Idiot, this is the school uniform that students in this world must wear. Just like our Death Tyrant uniform, it is mandatory. Rukia said loudly. Don't forget, Long Gike is still a student, and at this time, Long Gui should be in the school. We can only replace this when we go to Long Gui. Okay, let's go. Rukia took the initiative to walk in the front. Cut, it's really troublesome. Madarame Makaku replied, and the group followed Rukia's figure. Rukia and the group walking towards the school didn't notice that Arisawa Tatsuki's Ryotsu was no longer in the school, but there was no way out. Things, because of the strength of the captain or vice captain of everyone they were present. Even Rukia's strength has been continuously improved due to a series of events. At present, she has barely reached the strength of the previous officers, so after the group of them came to reality, in order to prevent the general summoning of the world. Soul effects, so they all have limitations, which define their Ryotsu. In addition, they had just entered the corpse and were completely unfamiliar with the application of Ryotsu, so they did not notice the Ryotsu who found Arisawa Tatsuki. Of course, if they want to find this out, even they can only use a lot of Ryotsu to sense the whole city. Rukia, Hitsugaya Deshiro and other 6 people were led by Rukia to Arisawa Tatsuki's school. Rukia also went to school here, so Rukia entered the academy with ease, but Hitsugaya Deshiro and his group were really eye-catching. The red-haired Abarai Renji looked like a bad boy, while carrying a wooden knife and staring at Madarame Makaku with a big bald head. He wanted to be more like a member of the underworld. Except for the two of them, there is even more strange, the silver-haired Hitsugaya Deshiro, although he is the captain of the 10th division in the Soul Society, but now, others see it as just a cute little boy, plus one more for Matsumoto Rangaku, who is eye-catching with big breasts. This strange combination, walking together, may cause no less attention than a war. Hey, Rukia-chan, is Arisawa really here? Matsumoto Rangaku asked in confusion. There doesn't seem to be Ryotsu with Arisawa nearby. Advertisement, I found it too, it's really weird. Rukia frowned with some doubts. But forget it, let's go and ask Orihime directly. I already feel it, Orihime's Ryotsu is in the classroom. Rukia stretched out slightly. He opened the classroom door. Rukia, isn't this Rukia? Orihime said excitedly when he saw Rukia's figure, and then looked at the people beside Rukia and said, Yohu, Rangaku, Madaramu, Ayasagawa, Abarai, Toshiro. Said Orihime. He jumped directly on Rukia's body and said, long time no see. It's been a long time, but please call me Captain Hitsugaya. Hitsugaya. Toshiro corrected directly. Rukia, long time no see. Yoruichi came behind Orihime, looked at Rukia with a slight nod and greeted, and then put her eyes on Hitsugaya. Toshiro behind Rukia. She opened her mouth before everyone said, okay. Let's go to the rooftop to chat. Anyway, there is still some time before class, we have enough time to chat well. Yoruichi said in a low voice, and Ichigo is also waiting for you up there. Opening the mouth, the pupils of Hitsugaya Toshiro and the others shrank suddenly and looked at Yoruichi slightly, but Yoruichi did not hesitate, but walked out of the classroom and said, come with me, everyone. 6,699 Hitsugaya Toshiro and the others glanced at each other, then followed, and naturally Orihime went up. As for the other people, they didn't follow, although they were also curious, but for things that were obviously related to other people's privacy, they not necessarily to understand. On the rooftop, Ichigo was lying on the rooftop, looking at the sky above. Squeaky. The door of the roof was pushed open by Yoruichi, and Hitsugaya Toshiro and others stepped onto the roof one after another. Just as soon as they got to the rooftop, they found that Yoruichi's hand was pointing in one direction, and following Yoruichi's finger, Hitsugaya and the others looked over. Longui. Rukia said in surprise when he saw Arisawa Tatsuki's figure. Arisawa Tatsuki got up from the ground, looked at Rukia, and suddenly stood in front of Rukia and the others. Rukia just wanted to speak, but Arisawa Tatsuki didn't. He rushed directly to Rukia. It's good to be gone, eldest sister. Oh, this flat chest really hasn't grown at all, I miss it so much. You be asterisk 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 D, you are a soul. Rukia kicked the soul out, then stood up and said, since you are in Longue's body, does it mean that Ichigo has been Shinigamiized? Orihime nodded slightly. Let me tell you. Yoruichi said slightly. Longue went to improve his strength, because Aizen and the others are not coming. So Longue went to Urahara to practice. Cut. Arisawa Tatsuki, where did he go? Hitsugaya Toshiro said, then looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, did anyone else go besides her? No? Inoue Orihime asked him uncertainly. By the way, who knows the most about Arrancar? Hitsugaya Toshiro asked them. Ichigo and Yoruichi should know the best, Inoue Orihime said and looked back at Ichigo who was lying on the roof, and Yoruichi was also sitting next to Ichigo. I don't think it's useful to tell you about this, because they didn't reveal much power, Ichigo said flatly, while Hitsugaya Toshiro asked respectfully. More or less there will still be some use, and please ask Kurosaki for your advice. Ichigo had to say it when I heard this. What? Hitsugaya Toshiro, Rukia, Abarai Renji, Matsumoto Rangaku, Madarei Mikaku, Ayasagawa Yumachika and other 6 people were shocked, and they were surprised when they heard Ichigo's words. Chapter 162. Arrancar's Message 1. Arrancar is the name of the emptiness who has realized the power of Shinigami, also known as Shinigamiized emptiness. Usually, the emptiness of Menos Grande Jillian or above can evolve into Arrancar. The characteristic of Arrancar is that the mask of emptiness is broken, revealing the human body, face, and carries a knife, in the form of Zanpakuto, sealed by the spiritual core of Arrancar's power, with an indestructible outer skin. Arrancar still has a brutal nature and devours souls. Ichigo interjected in the corner of the class. Then they must be very good. Shut up, one corner. After Ayasagawa Yumachika scolded at the corner of the class, he looked at Ichigo apologetically and said, I'm so sorry Kurosaki-sama, and I waved my hand. He continued. They have a skin as hard as steel, a steel that even Zanpakuto can't penetrate. After liberation, it is called sword liberation. Arrancar's Zanpakuto is a nucleus sealed by power, and liberating Zanpakuto is actually denuclearization. Seal. Restore the original appearance of the power. The attack and defensibility of its own has been significantly improved, and the appearance has changed a lot, which is different from the Shinigami. After Ichigo finished speaking, they were all stunned. Beep 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 beep. Everyone was present after hearing a sharp and harsh sound, and he returned to God, and saw the soul's waist like a skullwood brand suddenly rang. It's not good, there is a phantom appearing. Soul looked at the wooden sign that screamed. The phantom has appeared very frequently recently. It's really like what Longue said, that guy is going to attack the world. I'll deal with it, Rukia said, then stretched out a rabbit-shaped plastic bottle, and there was a pale green pill from the bottle. Rukia swallowed the pill directly, with a bang. Rukia's Zanpakuto appeared in a Death Fighter outfit, while a false soul appeared in Rukia's original body. Madarei Mikaku looked at Rukia, who had returned to Shinigami state, with a bored expression. This level of emptiness is just trash, and I can't even raise any interest. That's right, this kind of falsehood is so ugly, I don't even want to see it. Ayasagawa Yumachika looked at Inoue Orihime's eyes and said, Inoue is still beautiful, this kind of beauty is really unstoppable. Ayasagawa Yumachika said, approaching Inoue Orihime from time to time. When the people present heard Ayasagawa Yumachika's words, cold sweat broke out on their heads. Of course, Hitsugaya Toshiro, they all knew Ayasagawa Yumachika's character, so they were not worried, and Inoue Orihime also knew a Yasugawa Yumichika, and also knew a little about a Yasugawa Yumichika's character. Knowing that a Yasugawa Dongyujin didn't mean anything else, Inoue Orihime didn't care either. Kabi, before I come back, I'll ask you for my body, Rukia said. Yes, sis-sama, Chabi responded immediately. Rukia nodded slightly, and suddenly swept away in the direction of Ryotsu, while Chabi took out a handkerchief from nowhere and waved at Rukia with tears in her eyes. Said, the journey is smooth, elder sister. Rukia, who was flying in the air, staggered and almost fell from the sky. So how much does Lord Kurosaki know about Arrancar's combat power? Hitsugaya Toshiro asked Ichigo respectfully. I do know the strength and ability of those Arrancars. After Ichigo finished speaking, Hitsugaya Toshiro was very happy to hear this. Can you tell us? Advertisement, of course. Not, Ichigo said with a breath, and was disappointed to hear Hitsugaya Toshiro. Seeing this, Yoruichi smiled and said, Ichigo is just joking, come and take it. After that, I took out a stack of paper. Hitsugaya Toshiro also reached out and took a condition reflexively, and was surprised and happy after seeing what was written. Matsumoto Rangaku and the others were very curious when they saw this scene. They all looked at the paper in Hitsugaya Toshiro's hand. They were very surprised when they saw it, because it was written on the information of Aizen's subordinate Arrancar, and it was very detailed. It reads, the 10 most powerful Arrancars are called Espada according to their ability to kill. Espada, each dominates a form of death, loneliness, aging, sacrifice, nothingness, despair, destruction, intoxication, madness, greed, anger, in the order of 1 blade to 10. Which are the 10 leading causes of human death, both being the ability of each Espada is also the thought of Espada, and it is also the reason for the existence of Espada. Ask for flowers first Espada Coyote Stark symbol, loneliness. Liberation language. Chase and kill him, pack of wolves. Skills. Infinitely loaded Sero. Use the dual guns in her hand. Lilinette to instantly release the infinite Sero group after returning to the blade. Soul split. Split your soul into many pieces, each of which can be turned into a ferocious wolf. Each wolf is an independent weapon like his brethren, and those wolf warheads are both Stark and Lilinette. 0.0 second Espada Buragan Ruizan gang advertisement. Symbol. Aging liberation language. Decay, Skull Emperor. Skill. Breath of Death. This move can make anything that comes into contact with it to rot away. If the human body is attacked, it will be eroded to the point where there are no bones left. It is a terrifying move that spreads very quickly. Third Espada Tier Haribel symbol. Sacrifice Ulquiorra cipher. Symbol. Nothingness skills. Kanji and Cannon. Infuse spiritual power into the cavity in Zanpakuto, and then shoot a knife-shaped wave to attack the enemy. Searing current. After returning to the blade, shoot high-temperature airflow from the edge of the knife, turning all ice attacks in front of you. It is water. Broken waterfall. A huge water column is ejected from the blade behind the return blade to attack the opponent like a waterfall. Zan Shizuku. A water-like shockwave is shot from the right sword behind the return blade. As the name suggests, it can do a burst. Fourth Espada skill. Thunder Spear. After returning to the blade, a thunder and lightning javelin that can be used indefinitely is transformed from the hand. The power of a blow after throwing it is indescribable, but it is difficult to control. Liberation language. Block it, Black Wing Demon. Reference mark, but he still seems to have a hidden power, so be careful when fighting with him. Liberation language. Conquer him, Queen Shark. Chapter 163. Arrancar's information 2. Fifth Espada Neutra Gilda symbol. Despair liberation language. Pray, Holy Crying Mantis. Sixth Espada Grimjow Jägerjackass symbol. Destruction. Liberation language. Creep it, Leopard King. Skills. Claws of the Leopard King, Grimjow's strongest move. After returning to the blade, his hands change into 2 huge leopard claws, attacking the opponent from top to bottom, with huge power, full of attack power and a sense of oppression. Seventh Espada Zamari Ruro symbol. Intoxicated liberation language. Calm down, Curse-Eyed Sanga, May 20th. Skills. Schwanger rotation. Add a few small steps after the ordinary rotation, form an afterimage, and produce something like a clone. This type of clone can change up to 5. The eyes can control one part of the opponent's body through the gaze, but if they control the head, they can control the whole body, similar in nature to Kido. Advertisement 8th Espada Zale Aporo Grants symbol. Madness. Liberation language. Sipid, Evil Concubine. Skills. Duplicant, a large amount of liquid is sprayed from the back, and the person who is touched by the liquid will be duplicated. The duplicate person has the same strength as the original body but can only attack by imitating the action of the original body. Manipulating the 5 sense dolls. Wrapping the enemy through tentacles. Create an identical doll and destroy it to achieve an attack effect, which can destroy the internal organs, skeletal tendons, etc. of the enemy. Conception notification. Invade the opponent's body through the tentacles behind the blade. Lay eggs in its body, and absorb nutrients. Let the other party give birth to himself and achieve the purpose of rebirth. Ninth Espada Araniero Rurueri symbol. Greed. Liberation language. Devour it all, devour the void. Skill. Synchronized cognition. instantly conveys all the information of the enemy fighting with him to all his companions, which is both his ability and one of his tasks. Zeroth Espada Yami Largo Symbol. Anger Liberation Language. Get angry, angry beast. Reference mark the 10th Espada before liberation and the 0th Espada after liberation. Advertisement. After reading all the information, Hitsugaya Dashiro bowed respectfully to Ichigo, and then thanked. Thank you so much, Your Excellency Kurosaki. Even Matsumoto Rangaku and the others thanked Ichigo, and Rukia Kuchiki wiped out the dwarf and came back. Seeing Hitsugaya Dashiro's serious and grateful eyes, Rukia Kuchiki asked, Captain Hitsugaya, what's wrong? Before Hitsugaya Dashiro could say anything, Matsumoto Rangaku carried her to the side and explained to her, while Hitsugaya Dashiro said to Ichigo, then let's say goodbye. And Ichigo nodded too, and then Hitsugaya Dashiro left, bowed to Ichigo as Rukia Kuchiki left, and followed them. After they all left, Yoruichi asked, why did you help them so kindly this time? Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, it's nothing, it's just a little boring. Yoruichi didn't believe it. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was also very speechless, thinking, I told the truth, why don't you believe me? At this time, the class bell rang, and Ichigo and Yoruichi also went to class. Fortunately, the class bell rang at this time, otherwise Ichigo would be very embarrassed and don't know what to do. But I want to eat at night, otherwise I'll be angry, Yoruichi said to Ichigo coquettishly, and Ichigo had no choice but to nod and agree. Hearing this, Yoruichi jumped up happily, then hugged Ichigo and said, I knew you were the best. Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and scratched Yoruichi's nose and said, I love you forever. Me too. Yoruichi kissed Ichigo, then took Ichigo's hand and went to class. The other side, Captain, what should we do next? Matsumoto Rangaku looked at Hitsugaya Dashiro and said, now that Arisawa Tatsuki is not here, what should we do? Hitsugaya Dashiro was silent for a while and said, go and look for it. Lord Kurosaki has just said that Arisawa Tatsuki is in Urahara 1.4 Kazuki, and even if he is not there, he will never leave the city. After all, her family is here. I believe she must be practicing somewhere in the city, and she must have sensed Ariatsu, otherwise she wouldn't have turned a blind eye after the void appeared. Anyway, let's try to go look around, gather here at dusk. Yes, Captain, Matsumoto Rangaku replied immediately. Abarai Renji also responded, and even Yasugawa Yumichika and Madarei Mikaku, after looking at each other, responded with a yes, and then dispersed. Chapter 164. Stationed, Ichigo can't be found anywhere, Madarei Mikaku said to Hitsugaya Dashiro and others while standing on the rooftop of Ichigo School. I can't find it either, although I can feel Ichigo's Ryatsu, but I can't find it. Yasugawa Yumichika said, the only thing I can be sure of is that Ichigo should still be in this city. Abarai Renji also nodded slightly, obviously there was no gain either. That's right, Captain, what should we do next? Matsumoto Rangaku asked with some doubts. Forget it, don't worry about it for now, Hitsugaya Dashiro said, but let's settle down in this city now, and then I'll find a way to get in touch with the Soul Society and then go and ask Urahara Kazuki. Since we are stationed here, where are we going? Rukia asked with some doubts. After all, we also need a place to rest. Sister Rukia. Soul rushed over and hugged Rukia's waist and said, come with me to where Long Gui is, I think Long Gui's mother will be very happy to see you. Okay, 26, I want to see my aunt too. Rukia nodded slightly, scolding Rukia and bowed slightly to Hitsugaya Dashiro. Then Captain Hitsugaya, I'll leave first. Then Rukia looked at Abarai Renji and said, hello, Renji, I'm going to live at Long Gui's house. If you don't have a place to go, I'm going to go to Urahara Kazuki. I wonder if you'd like to live there, huh? Abarai Renji was taken aback, then nodded, of course, and followed Rukia. Ah, Rukia-chan and Abarai are so cunning, so where shall we go next? Captain, Matsumoto Rangaku asked Hitsugaya Dashiro, looking at him. How'd I know? Hitsugaya Dashiro said without hesitation, I, like you, are here for the first time. Advertisement, I see, Captain. Matsumoto Rangaku looked at Orihime who walked out of the school in the distance, his eyes lit up with a smile and said, I found a good place. Hitsugaya Dashiro was about to say something, but Matsumoto Rangaku directly pulled up Hitsugaya Dashiro to Yasugawa Yumichika and Madarei Mikaku. Then I'll go first, you guys can find a place to stay slowly. Matsumoto Rangaku ran away, leaving Yasugawa Yumichika and Madarei Mikaku where they were. Yasugawa Yumichika and Madarei Mikaku looked at each other, and Yasugawa Yumichika said first, so, what should we do in a corner? How'd I know? It's the first time I've come to the world, and I don't have any money in the world, so let's look around first. Madarei Mikaku said, then looked around and said, it's better to find someone who is unlucky, borrow it to his house. The two of them also left. Rukia and Abarai Renji, together with Soul, came to the Urahara store, opened the store door. Only Jinda and Xiaoyu were watching the store. Urahara Kazuki and Tessai Tsukabishi did not have any trace. Kid, is Urahara here? Rukia asked, looking at Jinda. Store manager. Jinda turned around and shouted loudly. Mr. Tessai, Miss Kuchiki is here. There's a red-haired baboon, and that violent girl. Jinda's words directly offended Abarai Renji. I don't care, not to mention that she is still in Long Gui's body. Miss Kuchiki, long time no see. Tessai Tsukabishi walked out and looked at Rukia, then put his eyes on Abarai Renji and said, who is this? Abarai Renji. Rukia said, it's my friend who grew up with me. Really? It turned out to be a childhood sweetheart's male friend. Tessai Tsukabishi nodded slightly and said, then you're looking for the store manager. The store manager is in the underground training ground. Then Tessai Tsukabishi turned around and said, follow me. Come on, Miss Kuchiki, I'll take you to the store manager. No, I won't go. Hun looked at the time and said, Longwei's mother has already gone back. I have to go shopping for food and go home. Sister, remember to come over at night. The speaker left in a hurry. Advertisement. This guy is about to become a violent woman. Jinda looked away from the soul and said, I have never seen such a modified soul before. Really? Rukia responded slightly, with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. In the underground training space, the loud bang sounded continuously. Rukia and Abarai Renji showed a trace of doubt on their hot faces. It's Mr. Sado Yasutora. Tessai Tsukabishi saw the doubts of the two and said, it's been a while since I asked the shop manager to train him, but the power of the shop manager is not suitable for training others, unless it is like Mr. Kurosaki, the kind of person who is born to die in battle, but not everyone has it. Same as Mr. Kurosaki, so the effect is not very noticeable. Really? Rukia responded slightly, and suddenly a figure suddenly came towards them. Rukia and Abarai Renji hurriedly ducked to the side. With a bang, the figure hit a huge rock directly. The whole rock is directly broken. Long time no see. Miss Kuchiki, Urahara Kazuki, who was still dressed, walked over with a rapier in hand and said with a smile. Looking at Rukia and Abarai Renji, the corners of Urahara Kazuki's mouth rose slightly, then looked at Sado Yasutora in the distance and said, Mr. Sado, do you want to end the training? No, it's not necessary. Sado climbed out of the rock and said, let's continue. The smile on Urahara Kazuki's face grew even stronger. He inserted the rapier in his hand back into the scabbard. In this way, in 520, the sword became a crutch again. Urahara Kazuki looked at Rukia and Abarai Renji and said, then next, they're your training objects, don't underestimate them, Mr. Sado. Mr. Abarai is a powerful Shinigami who has learned Bankai. Hey, Urahara, don't make your own decisions for us, Urahara, Rukia said immediately. No, it's not for you to make a decision, but to make a deal. Urahara Kazuki smiled and said, Miss Kuchiki, if you come to me, then there must be something, whether it is something to ask me or something to do for me. In short, my condition is to replace me with Mr. Sado's training in the next 3 months. Of course, during these 3 months, I will take care of it for you. Rukia was stunned for a moment, then looked at Abarai Renji and began to communicate. After a while, Abarai Renji opened his mouth and said, then let me come, I accept your conditions, but you must answer the questions we want to ask truthfully. The former captain of the 12th Division, the producer and technology of Hōgyoku, the founder and first director of the development agency, Urahara Kazuki. Of course. Urahara Kazuki took out a fan to cover his mouth and said, the transaction is based on the premise that both parties must pay. Chapter 165. Aizen's purpose. On the other side, Ichigo and Yoruichi returned home, put down their school bags and said to the Kurosakis. Then we are going now, don't tell Yuzu and Shirley the truth, just say we have something to go out. Do you really have to go? Kurosaki Masaki said very reluctantly, and when Ichigo saw it, he smiled and hugged Kurosaki Masaki and said, I will come back safely. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki stopped talking, and after Ichigo released Kurosaki Masaki, Yoruichi also hugged Kurosaki Masaki, and then came to Ichigo's side. Don't worry, it's not time to go to war, Ichigo said half-jokingly, and Kurosaki Masaki nodded at Ichigo and Yoruichi responded and Shunpo left. On the way, Yoruichi said to Ichigo, why don't you tell them your true strength? Let them worry so much. Hearing Ichigo say, of course I want to tell them, but how do you explain that you have acquired such a powerful strength? Hearing this, Yoruichi is also quiet. Seeing this, Ichigo stopped talking, hugged Yoruichi Shunpo and walked away. When hugging Yoruichi, Yoruichi was not surprised, because she had already remembered the taste of Ichigo, so Yoruichi did not resist. In a blink of an eye, I came to the most dilapidated warehouse at the wharf. I saw that the entire warehouse was so dilapidated that it was about to collapse. Even the original tempered glass had been shattered. The entire warehouse was originally 3 floors, but now it has become 1 floor, because most of the ceilings on the 2nd and 3rd floors have collapsed. Seeing the base like this, Ichigo wanted to turn around and leave, but Hiriko Shinji came out and said, Ichigo, Yoruichi, you are here. That's right, Ichigo and Yoruichi said to Hiriko Shinji very spiritless. Seeing Ichigo and Yoruichi's lack of spirit, Hiriko Shinji asked, what's wrong, so lack of spirit? Hiriko, can't you fix this place a little bit? Ichigo said helplessly. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji said pitifully, I think so too, but we don't have any money. Hearing this, Ichigo reluctantly took out a bank card and said, this is for you, the password is asterisk 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 asterisk, fix it and improve the food. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji quickly put the bank card in his hand and then said, thank you so much. Just because of a bank card, the name of Ichigo became you, and the corner of Ichigo's mouth saw this scene. After twitching, Hiriko Shinji, who didn't care where he got nervous, took Yoruichi's hand and entered. After Ichigo and Yoruichi went in, Hiriko Shinji also said in a funny tone, "Really, can't wait for someone else." After that, he walked in. Long Gui has been away for a week. I wonder how the cultivation is going. Orihime walked listlessly on the way home with his school bag in hand. "Ah, it's not good." Orihime said loudly, "I am so negative, no, I have to cheer up." Then Orihime jumped up with a look of energy, and even turned around twice. "By the way, there will be no class tomorrow, and Long Gui is not here, so let's go to Sister Rangaku to eat something good, such as banana yokon steak, donut kantoyaki, etc. Long Gui won't let me eat these things," Orihime said and walked towards the house with a smile on his face. As soon as he walked to his apartment, an aunt who lived with him stopped Orihime. And this aunt was the same aunt who mistook Ichigo for a thief last time. "I'm back, Mrs. Shinshin," Orihime said, looking at the aunt. Advertisement. "By the way, Orihime-chan." Mrs. Shinshin looked at Orihime and said, "The two people who stayed in your room these 2 days, are they really okay?" Orihime was taken aback and said, "What are you referring to?" "Just now," Mrs. Zinkun said, "they seem to have moved something very strange into your room." "Is it something strange?" Orihime was stunned for a moment and then said, "If that's the case, then I know, Mrs. Shinra, I'll go back and have a look, but it doesn't matter, Sister Rangaku and Toshiro won't do it." "Something strange," Orihime said and walked towards his apartment. "He's so handsome." Orihime looked at the living screen that he had placed in his holiday and took up the whole room and said, "That's weird, Toshiro, Sister Rangaku, what is this, what is it?" Hitsugaya Toshiro covered his head helplessly and said, "Shay came back at the most inopportune opportunity." Orihime, "This is." Matsumoto Rangaku just wanted to interface when the entire screen suddenly lit up, and a figure appeared on the screen. "Hello, I've kept you waiting, this is the Technology Development Bureau, the Communication Research Institute," the person on the screen said. "I am Hitsugaya Toshiro, captain of the 10th Division." "Yes, please wait a moment, I will connect you." Then the screen went dark, and then an old man appeared on the screen. "Mr. Captain." Orihime looked at the old man on the screen, surprised. The old man on the screen is Yamamoto Motonuzai Shigekuni, the captain of the 13th Division of Godei. The emergency contact this time is not for anything else. It's that Aizen's real purpose has been found out. Yamamoto Yuenujai Shigekuni ignored Orihime, but said directly. "Aizen's real purpose?" Hitsugaya Toshiro said in surprise. Matsumoto's argument was also surprised, but she did not have the qualifications to ask questions in front of Yamamoto Yuenujai Shigekuni. No, it should be said that she did not have the qualifications to ask questions. "That's right," Yamamoto Yuenujai said with a nod. "That, it seems to be a very important matter," Orihime said weakly, expressing his existence. "I'll leave first, I won't disturb you." Then Orihime turned around and prepared to leave. Advertisement. "Wait a minute." Yamamoto Yuenujai Shigekuni said. "This matter is closely related to your human beings, stay and listen together, I have another task for you later." "Yes," Orihime replied with a slight glimpse. "It's been a few months since Aizen disappeared." Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni said, "As the captain of the 5th Division in Aizen's living room, there is a clean tower in the basement of the 46th room, as well as a large number of souls. Society historical materials, as well as the Great Spirit Book corridor of various other materials, have conducted targeted investigations in all places, and finally found some clues in the Great Spirit Book corridor. I found the information that Aizen had seen, Wang Jian." In an instant, the faces of Hitsugaya Toshiro and Matsumoto Rangaku changed and became ugly. "Wang Jian?" 99 Orihime said with some doubts. "It's the key to the royal family," Matsumoto Rangaku replied. "There is a king in the Soul Society, but the king entrusts the power and all affairs to the Soul Society, and the security does not interfere at all. In fact, even me and the captain has never met anyone from the royal family." "That's right," Yamamoto Yuenujai Shigekuni said, "the king's name is Spirit King. It is not only symbolic for the Soul Society, but also an absolute existence, and the royal palace is said to be in the Soul Society, but it is better to think that he is in other spaces, just like Soul Society, Human World, Hueco Mundo, parallel, and guarded by royal guards. Just like the gate of crossing the world, you need to pass the gate of crossing the world to enter the Soul Society, and you need the king key to enter the space where the king is, and the king key is the key level to open the space. Then that means, Aizen is going to give the Spirit King," Orihime said worriedly. "Destroy it, that guy's purpose is probably this," Yamamoto Yuenujai Shigekuni said in a slightly homely tone, "but that's not the problem. What the Aizen guy, Li Liaohao, read did not record the information about the location of Wang Jian," Hitsugaya Toshiro said. "That's it." Yamamoto Yuenujai Shigekuni's eyes opened slightly, and a gleam of light emerged. "The location of Wang Jian is only passed down by the commander-in-chief of the 13th Division of the Godei Division, who has only seen it orally from generation to generation, so there is no document that records where Wang Jian is. What that guy is looking at is a document that records the circumstances in which Wang Jian was created. That is to say, What he knew was Wang Jian's creation method, and according to the records, Wang Jian's creation required 100,000 souls, as well as a land of heavy spirits within a radius of 1 spirit. The so-called heavy spiritual land refers to the special places that have spirituality in the present world, that is, Inoue or Hime, where you are now. The place of rebirth will change with the times. In short, the land that is most likely to gather supernatural things and has spirituality in the present world can be called the land of heavy spirituality. What is the current place of heavy spirituality? Hitsugaya Dashiro asked. Karakura City. Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni said. The faces of Hitsugaya Dashiro and Matsumoto Rangaku were filled with surprise for a moment, and although Orihime was also surprised, she still didn't fully understand what Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni had just said. Chapter 166. Where is Arisawa Tatsuki? Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni looked at Orihime and stretched out his hand slightly. Whether it is 100,000 souls or a heavy spiritual ground within a radius of 1 spirit, because it is relatively unrealistic, you may not be able to understand Inoue or Hime, then I'll just tell you in the simplest way, and at the same time I'll put the scene on this screen. Then the figure of Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni disappeared from the screen, and then the whole scene of Karakura City appeared on the screen. Then suddenly a light appeared. The whole city of Karakura suddenly disappeared like this, without any precursor. The whole city of Karakura just disappeared like this, turning into some blue energy gathered in the air. As for the original location of Karakura City, the city has completely disappeared, leaving only a bottomless pit the size of Karakura City. The picture disappeared, and Yamamoto's figure reappeared and said, if Aizen made Wang Jian according to the records in the literature, then all the ground and people in the entire Karakura City will be completely wiped from this world, fall and disappear. The whole city of Karakura. Orihime said in astonishment. How could this happen? Stop, is there any way to stop him? At this moment, Orihime's face was full of horror, and any 523 people who saw it would feel extremely distressed. No, Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni said, however, if you don't, you have to stop it. The 13th division of Gotei exists for this reason. Yes, thank you, Mr. Captain. Orihime nodded slightly. Although it is urgent, there is still time. Yamamoto Uenujai Shigekuni said with a serious look. According to Kuretsushi Miyuri's report, Hōgyoku, who was sealed by the soul, was still in a deep sleep after being released. It also takes 4 months to fully awaken, and as long as Hōgyoku is not fully awakened, then Aizen will not be able to gather the pieces he needs. He will only act after Hōgyoku is fully awakened. Saying this, Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni suddenly froze. Dao. The decisive battle is in winter. That is to say, we still have more than a month. Before that, we need to reserve combat power. Yes, Hitsugaya Dashiro and Matsumoto Rangaku answered loudly. Then Inoue Orihime. Yamamoto Motoyasu Shigekuni looked at Orihime and said, Aizen's goal is the present, and things may happen that we can't deal with. So can you send us a message? 39. Yes. Orihime answered loudly, then turned and left. Then, I'll go notify them in a corner, Matsumoto Rangaku said. I'm going to inform Abarai, Hitsugaya Dashiro said. Then that's it. Captain Hitsugaya, Yamamoto Motoyuzai Shigekuni said. Yes, Your Excellency Commander-in-Chief. Ichigo, Long Gui, something terrible has happened, where are you? After Orihime ran out of the house, he realized that he didn't even know where Ichigo and Arisawa Tatsuki were, and for a while he didn't know which way to go. Go. Ryotsu can't feel it either. Ichigo and Ryuki, where are you? Orihime called silently. Advertisement immediately. Orihime looked around and ran in one direction. She didn't know where Ichigo and Arisawa Tatsuki were, and she couldn't even feel their Ryotsu, but she ran over after she still said her direction. Without the slightest hesitation, it was as if he knew where they were. Where is this? When Orihime came to a dock and stood in front of a warehouse, Orihime stopped, looked at the warehouse in front of her and said to herself, although I don't know where this is, but I can feel it, Ichigo and Long Gui are here. Orihime walked forward to the warehouse and put his hand on the barrier outside the warehouse. Enchantment, and then Orihime said with a slight pause. But this enchantment feels somewhat similar to my shield Shun Luha. If it is CGBE, then I can go in directly. He said his hand slightly, the force of the whole hand melted directly into the enchantment. Can do it. Orihime said, and then the whole person directly melted into the enchantment. In the basement of the warehouse, Arisawa Tatsuki is fighting with Sarugaki Hiyori. Arisawa Tatsuki is of course unliberated with the Sky Thunder in his hand, just an ordinary Zanpakuto appearance. Arisawa Tatsuki stretched out her hand slightly and slowly pulled it on her face, and a mask appeared on her face. Idiot, I've counted, you took out the mask too slowly, Sarugaki Hiyori said, and at the same time kicked Arisawa Tatsuki suddenly. With a pop, Arisawa Tatsuki grabbed Sarugaki Hiyori's feet. I know, but I can only use this way. Hey, what are you doing? Kuna Mashiro asked Arisawa Tatsuki and Sarugaki Hiyori suspiciously. Training to maintain hollow time, Muguruma Kensai said. After learning hollow, the maintenance time is often very short, so it must be extended through training, which should be done by everyone. I don't have it, Kuna Mashiro began. Who are you lying to? This can be said to be something everyone must do, how could you not? Muguruma Kensai said with a look of disbelief. Really, Xiaobai can last more than 15 hours on his first hollow. He is the only one who has never done this kind of training. Hiriko Shinji said, but compared to Long Gujiang, it's really scary. This is the first time. When hollow, he was only a dozen seconds, and now he can last for more than a minute. Really, I think the two of them are the most terrifying. It didn't take long for Hollow to learn to be completely hollow, and Hollow's time is like infinite, it's really pervert. Love Ikawa muttered, so everyone was very excited when he heard this, nodding in agreement. Luo Wu, I can hear you. Ichigo leaned against the wall and hugged Yoruichi, and said indifferently. Although it feels a little strange, but treat it like you were complimenting me. And Yoruichi also arched in Ichigo's arms, and then quietly watched as if he had found a comfortable position. And why there is such a scene is because Urahara Kazuki handed Arisawa Tatsuki to the Kamen army before Ichigo and Yoruichi came, and asked them to teach Arisawa Tatsuki, because when Urahara Kazuki was training Arisawa Tatsuki, he felt in her body, she had the same aura as those of the masked army, that is, the power of emptiness. Although Urahara Kazuki doesn't know why, but for the sake of being at ease, I gave her to the masked army. Then Ichigo and Yoruichi came while learning hollow training, which led to the current situation. Chapter 167. Monsters and Above Monsters. Bang bang, Arisawa Tatsuki wears a mask on his face, and holds Tinlei in his hand, and Sarugaki Hiyori, who also wears a mask, is in a fierce battle. The entire underground space is their battlefield, so the two people's battles are almost their own strengths. Come out. Dang dang dang, Zanpakuto's intersecting voice continued to sound. Arisawa Tatsuki and Sarugaki Hiyori's attacks continued to collide, and the two powerful Ryotsu were colliding with each other. Kacha, the mask on Arisawa Tatsuki's face suddenly cracked and then shattered in an instant. 1 minute and 5 seconds. Mugaruma Kensai glanced at the chronograph in his hand and said, it's 0.5 seconds later than last time. Really? Hiriko Shinji replied, although it can be used as a means in a battle for more than a minute. But it is still far from enough to be the main means of attack. Then Hiriko Shinji looked at Arisawa Tatsuki, who was completely at a disadvantage, and said, without Hollow, without Bankai, and even Ryuki, who doesn't even have Shikai, I will be completely at a disadvantage in the face of Hiyori. It's not bad. Long Gui's strength is good now, Ichigo said softly next to him, while Yoruichi leaned on Ichigo's body, nodded and said, it's already very good, although the time of Hollow is not long, but enough is enough. Hearing all the masked core people here, they thought to themselves, do you think you are all pervert like you too? After watching the battle between the two for a while, Hiriko Shinji stood up and looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and Sarugaki Hiyori, who were fighting, and said, Ryugi, you put Tenrai Bankai and use all your power. Everyone present was stunned. Even Arisawa Tatsuki and Sarugaki Hiyori were stunned for a while, except of course Ichigo and Yoruichi. They stopped fighting. Sarugaki Hiyori pushed the mask to his head. Hey, if Ryuki is in Bankai, then Hiyori will obviously not be Roki's opponent. Itoribashi Rojiro said, you forgot her Hollow's power? No, I didn't forget, so... Hiriko Shinji looked at Sally Yahamaru and said, so the battle is 2-on-1, not 1-on-1. Sally. Cut, it's really troublesome, I haven't read the magazine in my hand yet. Sally Yahamaru curled her lips. Although she said so, Sally Yahamaru put the swimsuit magazine in her hand on the ground and held it directly. Zanpakuto, who lived on his own, stepped forward and stood in front of Arisawa Tatsuki. So that's the case, but this way, it can increase the difficulty, so. Arisawa Tatsuki showed a slight smile, then held the Sky Thunder in his right hand, pointed to the sky and said, before liberation, outside there should be no problem with the barrier, but if my Ryotsu leaks out, I'm afraid Shinigami will come to my door immediately, so I won't be able to train with peace of mind. Yes, no problem, Hashijin said, I will suppress all your breath in this barrier. There will never be any trace of Ryotsu leaking out. That's good. Arisawa Tatsuki nodded slightly. Bankai. A huge Ryotsu gushed out from Arisawa Tatsuki's body, directly wrapping Arisawa Tatsuki completely. Spear of Thunder Punishment. Arisawa Tatsuki's voice was soft. The news came out, and at this moment, the huge Ryotsu disappeared in a short moment, and Arisawa Tatsuki was wearing a silver-white armor over the Deathlord suit, holding a gold and silver alternating spear in his right hand. At the same time, Arisawa Tatsuki smiled slightly, and then Arisawa Tatsuki slightly raised his right hand to cover his face, only showing a pair of eyes. Then Arisawa Tatsuki took his right hand away, and a mask appeared in Arisawa Tatsuki's hand superior. Seeing this, Ichigo was a little surprised and said, this is the first time I have seen Long Gui's Bankai, he is really heroic. Arisawa Tatsuki was also very happy to hear this, and Yoruichi also said, yes, this is Bankai is very suitable for Long Gui's temperament. Advertisement, K. Ryotsu is a lot stronger, Sarugaki Hiyori said, then pulled off the mask on his head. Sally Yahamaru stretched out her hand slightly, and then a mask appeared on her face, and the three of them took the mask. The speed of Arisawa Tatsuki is obviously only 2 seconds, but it is at least 2 or 3 times slower than them. Be careful, Arisawa Tatsuki said with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. You all know my Thunderbolt ability. After Bankai, her power to control Thunderbolt has increased by several levels. If you accidentally get hacked, but it's not good, although I can't control my strength, I don't believe that I've been hacked, so I don't care about my business. Hey, Thank you very much for your reminder, Sally Yahamaru said. I will fight you with the mentality of wanting to kill you, so on the other hand, you don't want to be killed by us. That's right, bald man, Sarugaki Hiyori said, we won't have any mercy on you. Hearing Arisawa Tatsuki's words, Yoruichi chuckled and said, Long Gui, it turns out that he also has such a black-bellied character, I didn't expect it. Katakana middle dot flowers, I know Long Gui's character very well, but this is the first time I have seen such Long Gui, Ichigo said in surprise. Hey, how dare you say it? Arisawa Tatsuki said to the two of them very rudely. At this moment, the three of them exerted their strength at the same time, and all rushed towards each other in an instant. The three of them exerted a powerful force, directly using the simplest moves to fight recklessly. Boom, 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 boom. Arisawa Tatsuki, Sarugaki Hiyori, and Sally Yagamaru were constantly colliding with each other. Hiriko Shinji looked at Muguruma Kensai and said, what about the distance between Ryugi Hollow? 9. Muguruma Kensai was silent for a moment, then said, Monster, she is a monster. Muguruma Kensai said, once we put on the mask, we can take it off at any time and put it on again, but if we don't have the mask on our face, it will automatically if it is broken, then we will not be able to use hollow again in a short period of time, that is to say, we are actually only hollowing once. This is not the case with Arisawa Tatsuki, she should be able to wear it at any time like us. Down, but even if her mask is broken, she can still put it on after an interval of about 10 to 30 minutes. Our time interval is indeed 12 to 24 hours. In other words, we can hollow once or twice a day. Can Arisawa Tatsuki be able to hollow at least 40 times? Hiriko Shinji squinted his eyes slightly and said, theoretically, this is the case. But if it is really hollow, it should be it has decreased a lot, but even if it is reduced by half, she still has more than 20 hollows per day. This kind of terrifying hollows is really terrifying. Hiriko Shinji said, I don't know if I should continue training. Long Gui is too strong, if it continues, then Long Gui's power will be so powerful that none of us can surpass it, and once a person's strength is too strong, even if he can control himself, he may not be able to do something like this. It's scary. Muguruma Kensai exclaimed, while Hiriko Shinji said speechlessly, if she's a monster, what are they too? Hiriko Shinji pointed to Ichigo and Yoruichi. Hearing this, Muguruma Kensai was also stunned, then looked at Ichigo and Yoruichi, and then hurriedly turned his head to watch their battle. Next. Chapter 168. Inoue Orihime is here. Well, what's going on? Hashijin frowned in confusion at this time. However, Hachigen's words also interrupted Hiriko Shinji's thoughts. What happened, Hachi? Hiriko Shinji asked. After all, Hashijin maintains the barrier. If something happens to him, then the only possibility is that there is a problem with the barrier. Yes, it's about the barrier. Someone entered my barrier, Hashijin said. Have you entered the barrier? So what's the origin of the other party, Shinigami, or is it empty? Hiriko Shinji asked. I don't think it will be Shinigami or Shu, Hashijin said. My enchantment is the enchantment that I have explored after becoming a mask and adding the power of Shu on the basis of Kido. I want to follow the 5-2-3 Shinigami's Kido. It is impossible to break my barrier at all, and it is equally impossible for Shu. And what is even more strange is that the other party did not use force to forcibly destroy my barrier, but melted into it. Inside my enchantment, but why does this happen? Really, since Shinigami can't break it, then so does the virtual. After all, the barrier you set up has both the power of Shinigami and the virtual. Only Arankar has the power of Shinigami and Holycus, or is the person who came here still a mask? 39. I don't know either. Hashijin shook his head slightly, and then said secretly in his heart. I don't think it should be Arankar or the mask. If it is Arankar and the mask, then it will naturally be able to destroy my enchantment. But there is no sign of the barrier being destroyed. It seems that the other party has passed through the barrier as easily as I did. What, is anyone here? You don't have to guess, little 8. Hiriko Shinji looked at the stairs in the distance and said, the other party has already come. Can you just ask me directly? Ah, yes, Hashijin nodded slightly. I would like to see what kind of guy is able to enter the little 8 enchantment, Itoribashi Rojiro said. Advertisement and Hiriko Shinji saw that both Ichigo and Yoruichi knew it and asked, do you know who's here? I know, but I won't tell you, Yoruichi said angrily, and Hiriko Shinji was also angry and helpless when he heard it. It's someone you know, Hiriko, Ichigo said to Hiriko Shinji, when Hiriko Shinji was about to ask. Come on, Love Ikawa said, and then all the group heard footsteps, and the group's spirit began to concentrate. After all, someone they didn't know was coming, and it was easy to pass through the setting they set. Came after the enchantment. This kept them all focused. Clapapa. Even the battle voices of Arisawa Tatsuki, Sarugaki Hiyori, and Yahamaru Sally couldn't cover up the footsteps of a stranger. With a soft click, the mask on Arisawa Tatsuki's face once again cracked, but in the current battle, Arisawa Tatsuki clearly has the upper hand, because both Sarugaki Hiyori and Yahamaru Sally have been painted, but Arisawa Tatsuki is the only one. It was still intact, but when the mask on Arisawa Tatsuki's face shattered, Arisawa Tatsuki's speed and attack power dropped significantly. Sarugaki Hiyori and Yahamaru Sally seized the opportunity to attack Arisawa Tatsuki directly. With a pop, the mask on Arisawa Tatsuki's face was completely shattered, and then was kicked on the body by Sally Yahamaru and Sarugaki Hiyori, who were directly kicked out. And the person who entered Hachigen's barrier also came in front of everyone. All the masked members were slightly stunned, and looked at the person who appeared in front of them in disbelief. Orihime. Hiriko Shinji said in surprise. Good morning. Orihime walked into the underground space, saw Hiriko Shinji and his party, and said with a smile. Human. 95 advertisement. How can that be? How could humans come here? 5. The masked members showed shocked expressions, and looked at Orihime, who suddenly came here in disbelief. Well, good afternoon. Orihime looked at the masked members and said with a smile. Well, I want to ask where is the bathroom? After speaking, Orihime said with a slight pause. Just kidding. Ah, Hiriko Shinji replied slightly. She is Inoue Orihime. No, calm down, she's just joking, so we don't need to care. Sisi, Kunamashiro said, standing beside Muguruma Kensai. Just kidding, what does she mean? Muguruma Kensai's forehead showed, clenching his fists tightly and said, is she kidding us? With a click, the mask on Arisawa Tatsuki's face was completely shattered. And at the same time, Sally Yahamaru and Sarugaki Hiyori immediately switched from defense to attack. Raising Zanpakuto in their hands together and slashing towards Arisawa Tatsuki, the Tensazan Jetsu in his hand was suddenly raised with a dang, and the Zanpakuto of Sally Yahamaru and Sarugaki Hiyori slashed on the spear of retribution in the hands of Arisawa Tatsuki. Although Arisawa Tatsuki caught the slash of the two, but the huge force directly knocked Arisawa Tatsuki out. Actually, Orihime is my first love, Hiriko Shinji said, and everyone was taken aback for a moment. Yohu, Hiriko classmate, Orihime greeted Hiriko Shinji immediately. Do you know her, Shinji? Atoribashi Rojiro asked. Atoribashi Rojiro sighed helplessly and shrugged slightly. Shinji, I said that to every cute girl. Even to Sally, Shinji said the same. Then Atoribashi Rojiro looked at Ichigo who was fighting beside him said, Inoue Orihime, if I remember correctly, Shinji mentioned it once and seems to be Arisawa Tatsuki's best friend. Shinji, aren't you afraid? Is Longwei desperate with you? Cut. Hiriko Shinji cut 1.4, but he didn't speak anymore, because he wasn't sure whether Arisawa Tatsuki would rush over to fight him because of this, but after Hiriko Shinji thought about it in his heart, he found that the probability was still very high. Yes, he doesn't want to fight Arisawa Tatsuki in a life and death battle just because of a few words. Inoue Orihime, the name sounds familiar, Love Akawa said. Chapter 169. Inoue Orihime returns with a boom. Arisawa Tatsuki's entire body slammed directly into a huge rock, and the huge rock was directly broken into countless pieces of fine rubble. Dragon Gui. Inoue Orihime saw Arisawa Tatsuki's figure, and immediately ignored the other masks present and ran towards Arisawa Tatsuki. Love Akawa wanted to stop Inoue Orihime, but Hiriko Shinji just made a move to stop. Hiriko Shinji shook his head slightly at Love Akawa, then looked at Sally Yahamaru and Sarugaki Hiyori and said, Okay, Sally, Hiyori, take a break, and speak after the training break. I know. Sally Yahamaru and Sarugaki Hiyori saw the figure of Inoue Orihime. They were slightly taken aback, and then nodded slightly, and at this time, Arisawa Tatsuki also found the figure of Inoue Orihime. Such a come on, the training will naturally be suspended. Orihime, why are you here? Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Inoue Orihime and asked with some doubts. Don't worry about this for now. Inoue Orihime shook his head slightly and said, I'll treat you first, Longwei. Ah, please, Arisawa Tatsuki said, a yellow light curtain covering Arisawa Tatsuki. Inoue Orihime shook his head slightly and said, as long as I can help you. Inoue Orihime said with a smile. The strength in his hand increased at the same time. Little 8. Love Akawa looked at Inoue Orihime and said, Your enchantment is very perfect. This has been proven perfect for more than 100 years, so there is no doubt, but how did the human woman named Orihime find it here? And can also enter the enchantment without destroying your enchantment? No, I don't know either, Hachigen said slightly. But from the ability she uses and the Ryotsu she senses, she seems to have the same enchantment ability as me, perhaps because of this power, so only then can she find the place surrounded by the barrier and pass through the barrier to enter the interior. Then Hachigen looked at Inoue Orihime for a moment. This power. Hachigen frowned slightly at Inoue Orihime. What's the matter? Hachi, Hiriko Shinji was also attracted by Hachigen and asked. Advertisement, Orihime, his power is exactly the same as mine. Hachigen looked at Inoue Orihime and said, although her power is not strong now, it does come from the same source as mine. Shinji, can be with me, tell me about this girl? You said Orihime? Hiriko Shinji glanced at Hachigen and said, I don't know much about her words, after all, if she wasn't close to Longwei, I wouldn't have noticed her at all, but when it comes to Orihime the ability seems to be inspired by the influence of Ichigo's Ryotsu, but this ability is also very suitable for her kind personality, which is so kind that even if the enemy falls in front of her, her heart will be extremely painful. Really? In this case, she is very unsuitable for combat. Hachigen looked at Inoue Orihime and said, but yes, her strength is the same as mine, so naturally she can't rush to the front line of the battle. Okay. Longwei, Inoue Orihime looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and let go of his hand with a smile. Arisawa Tatsuki showed a slight smile, then reached out and gently stroked Inoue Orihime's head. By the way, Orihime, you came to me, there must be something wrong. Then Arisawa Tatsuki stretched out his hand slightly and pulled Inoue Orihime up. By the way, I almost forgot. Then Inoue Orihime raised his head slightly and looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, Long Gui, Toshiro, Rangaku. Rukia-chan came to this world, but at that time, Long Gui, I came to practice with Shinji-san. So I probably don't know yet. Is that so? Arisawa Tatsuki nodded slightly and said, I think they're here for the Aizen guy's business, so is there anything else? Yes. Inoue Orihime nodded and said, Toshiro just set up a huge TV in my house, and this TV was actually contacted by the captain of Soul Society, and then the captain told us the purpose of Aizen. Your Excellency, Captain. Hiriko Shinji's eyes narrowed slightly, and at the same time, even the other members of the masked corps concentrated and began to listen to Inoue Orihime's words, which they didn't want to hear. Speaking of intimate words, they were a bit unkind to listen to the words from the corner, but when they heard the two key words of Soul Society and Your Excellency the Chief Captain, they couldn't be so calm, and the group began to everyone listen to Inoue Orihime's words. That's it. After Inoue Orihime said, he looked at Arisawa Tatsuki, waiting for Arisawa Tatsuki to make a decision. 100,000 souls in a place of heavy spirituality within a radius of one spirit? Arisawa Tatsuki said, if that's the case, then the battlefield must be Karakura City. And according to the time commander said, then Hōgyoku is completely the awakening is at the end of December, that is to say, there are only more than 2 months left, it seems that it must be accelerated. Advertisement? Speed up? What speed up? Inoue Orihime was slightly taken aback. No, it's too numb. Hiriko Shinji folded his arms and said, goosebumps all over the place. Hiriko Shinji looked unbearable. Then, and Long Gui and Orihime aren't that? Hiriko Shinji said slyly. Of course it's my training. Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Inoue Orihime and said with a smile. I'm still weak now, Orihime. I have to become stronger, and then I can protect everyone in Karakura City, and then I can protect everyone in the academy, protect Mom, and protect you, Orihime. So, goodbye, Ichigo, said Inoue Orihime and bowed slightly to the other people. Then I'll take my leave first, I'm sorry. After saying that, Inoue Orihime left directly. Women are troublesome, Love Aikawa began. Well, you go back first, Orihime, Arisawa Tatsuki said with a slight smile. I will definitely finish the training here as soon as possible. Hey, don't go too far. Sarugaki Hiyori came directly to Arisawa Tatsuki's side and shouted loudly. Longui, this is for you to train, not for you to chat here. For a moment, Inoue Orihime blushed into a red apple, lowered his head, and did not dare to say a word. Because Inoue Orihime thought. Longui doesn't think 523 is thinking about my confession, so should I agree or refuse? If I refuse, what should I do if Longui is sad? Ah, I'm sorry. Inoue Orihime immediately apologized, and then said with a slightly dim expression. I'm sorry, I must have disturbed you, I'll go right away. Then Orihime looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, then I'll go first, Longui, train well. Anyway, but I wish there was someone who could tell me that, Sally Yahamaru said while looking at Inoue Orihime and Arisawa Tatsuki. Chapter 170. Dinner. Part 1. Just as Inoue Orihime had just left, and his eyes had just left Arisawa Tatsuki felt a blade cut directly behind him. Arisawa Tatsuki's eyes narrowed, his right hand rested on the sky thunder around his waist, and he drew the knife away. Come out. With a sound of, dang, Arisawa Tatsuki used the thunder to hold Zanpakuto behind him. Reaction is too slow. Sarugaki Hiyori shouted loudly, looking at Arisawa Tatsuki who was holding his attack. The rest time is over, now the training continues. HMPH. Okay. Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Hiriko Shinji and the other masks with a smile on his face. Sarugaki Hiyori alone is not enough. Don't underestimate me, Sarugaki Hiyori yelled at Arisawa Tatsuki. Speaking of attacking Arisawa Tatsuki directly, bang bang, Arisawa Tatsuki kept blocking Sarugaki Hiyori's Zanpakuto with the thunder in his hand. Ichigo didn't even have Zanpakuto's liberation in Hollow, of course. Sarugaki Hiyori, she didn't either. Hollow. Shinji? Hashijin stood up and said. Hiriko Shinji nodded directly and said, go, Hachi, if you can help her, just help her. Well, I see. Hashijin nodded slightly, then turned to leave. Hiriko Shinji glanced at Arisawa Tatsuki and Sarugaki Hiyori who were fighting, then looked at Muguruma Kensai and said, how long can Long Gui's hollow last? 1 minute and 10 seconds, Muguruma Kensai said. She can achieve this level in a short period of time after controlling hollow, which is a good talent. But compared to her talent in combat, she is completely incapable of it. Compare. No, Hiriko Shinji shook his head slightly and said, her talent is very terrifying. She can't maintain hollow for a long time, that's because the emptiness in her body is too strong. Haven't you found out yet, Kensai? Luo Wu. Hiriko Shinji looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, when we helped Ryugi control the power of the void burst out. In that case, the power of the void and the power of Ryugi itself cancelled each other out. Even so, her power is so powerful, and now Long Wei can control the power of the void, but after all, she has just learned it, and she has not fully adapted, but in the short period of time that Long Wei can control, the power, the explosive power, the defensive power and the speed displayed by Long Wei. The reason why Long Wei cannot maintain Hollow for a long time now is because the power of the virtual is too powerful. Once Long Wei is fully used to this power and if it can be applied flexibly, then the power displayed by Long Wei will probably surprise us. Hearing this, Ichigo smiled, because the emptiness in Arisawa Tatsuki's body was what Ichigo had done. Because Ichigo feels that he has become so powerful now, wouldn't it be interesting if the main line collapsed? So Ichigo used Hōgyoku to create a void in Arisawa Tatsuki's body, and this void was similar to the void in Kurosaki Ichigo's body in the original work, otherwise how could there be such an effect? Advertisement, Shinji. Arisawa Tatsuki is a little too boastful, she can't be like Ichigo and Yoruichi, Muguruma Kensai began. Speaking of this, they all looked at Ichigo and Yoruichi, and after Ichigo noticed their eyes, he said very rudely, "What are you looking at, single dog?" Hearing this, the people of the masked army were all black lines, but still hold it, because the level gap between the enemy and ours is too big. Don't believe it, Hiriko Shinji said, well then, how about you experience it yourself? Muguruma Kensai was slightly taken aback, then nodded, and at the same time threw the watch in his hand to Love Ekawa and said, then let me try Arisawa Tatsuki's strength and see how much power he has to make you like this. Boast. Hey, then. Hiriko Shinji shouted to Arisawa Tatsuki who was fighting Sarugaki Hiyori. Ryuki, Hiyori, stop for a while. Hearing Hiriko Shinji's words, Arisawa Tatsuki and Sarugaki Hiyori suddenly confronted with a single move, the two knives collided suddenly, and the huge force directly sent both of them flying out. What? Bald man. Sarugaki Hiyori looked at Hiriko Shinji and said loudly, obviously because of Hiriko Shinji's sudden stop, she was a little uncomfortable. Longui, Shinji did not take care of Sarugaki Hiyori, but watched Arisawa Tatsuki pointed to the kitchen behind him and said, Longui, since we have this, we have not used it, but Ichigo actually said, this time let me step up your training, and in exchange, how about he cook us a big meal tonight? He looked at Ichigo very carefully after saying that, because Hiriko Shinji didn't get Ichigo's approval to say that. When Ichigo heard Hiriko Shinji's words, he was stunned for a moment, and then after thinking about it, Ichigo smiled, and Yoruichi was surprised when he heard it, and he understood after seeing the expressions of Hiriko Shinji and Ichigo. And Arisawa Tatsuki was very excited after hearing Hiriko Shinji's words, but Arisawa Tatsuki didn't look at Hiriko Shinji, and then looked at Ichigo, wanting to make sure. And Ichigo nodded amusedly when he saw this scene. Advertisement seeing Ichigo's nod, Arisawa Tatsuki knew it was real, and Hiriko Shinji breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay to make a big meal, but Shinji. Ichigo looked at Hiriko Shinji and said, how can you increase the level of training? If it doesn't satisfy me, what I make won't taste good. Hey, Hiriko Shinji said with a slight smile. During this time, Long Wei has been fighting with Hiyori and Sally. If Kensai joins, what do you think? He will not be like Hiyori and Sally, training with Long Wei, he will kill him. Muguruma Kensai. Ichigo looked at Muguruma Kensai with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth and said, deal, but the quality of the dish is determined by your contribution or not. In this case, you can attack with confidence, Ichigo said with a slight pause. Of course, if Long Wei is beaten down by you, then I will let you taste the taste of the full Han banquet. There are really 108 great dishes, all kinds of delicacies from mountains and seas, but it is a huge banquet that takes 3 days and 3 nights. Hey, is it? Muguruma Kensai's eyes flashed. 108 dishes. Sally Yahamaru put down the swimsuit magazine in her hand and stared at Ichigo. Eat for 3 days and 3 nights. Sarugaki Hiyori kept his mouth shut, and everyone turned their attention to Muguruma Kensai. Cut. These guys. Muguruma Kensai gritted his teeth slightly, then looked at Ichigo and said, really? If you say it, will the water you spill be taken back? Ichigo said. So, what if you beat her in a short amount of time? Muguruma Kensai began. Chapter 171. Dinner. Part 2. Do the Manchu Han full feast twice, and Long Wei can't release water, otherwise I won't do it, Ichigo said slightly. Okay. Muguruma Kensai nodded slightly, then turned his right hand. A dagger appeared in his hand, and then pulled his left hand on his forehead suddenly, and saw a tempered mask appeared on his face, with 3 pieces on the left and right sides of the mask. A rectangular hole, 6 strips fixed the mask. Hollow? Arisawa Tatsuki turned his left hand and said, Bankai, Spear of Thunder Punishment. I saw that the thunder on Arisawa Tatsuki's left hand disappeared and turned into a spear. Then Arisawa Tatsuki raised his left hand slightly, and suddenly a mask appeared on Arisawa Tatsuki's face. The figure of Shu Muguruma Kensai disappeared in place. Arisawa Tatsuki's eyes shrank suddenly. He directly lifted the spear in his right hand, and with a sound of, dang, I saw Muguruma Kensai appeared in front of Ichigo. The dagger in his hand stabbing straight Ichigo's neck was blocked by Ichigo's spear just before it hit. I don't use their gentle training methods, I will only train you with life and death battles, Muguruma Kensai said. Arisawa Tatsuki, if you are not careful, I will kill you. When 523, Arisawa Tatsuki smiled slightly. If I was killed by you during training, then I have nothing to say. After all, I will face that guy Aizen in the future. If Zhongdu is killed, then why should I stop Aizen? Instead of watching Aizen complete the production of Wang Jian, it is better to do this kind of training. If he dies, then he will die early and be born early. Is there such a realization? Then it's great. Muguruma Kensai suddenly raised his left hand and hit Arisawa Tatsuki directly. With a bang, Arisawa Tatsuki raised his left CGBE hand, so Muguruma Kensai's punch directly hit Arisawa Tatsuki's left hand, and Arisawa Tatsuki's left hand was numb with great force, but Muguruma's left hand was numb. Kensai retreated. He had to retreat. Just when Arisawa Tatsuki blocked his fist, a lightning bolt appeared out of nowhere and shot directly at Muguruma Kensai. It was the thunder. Muguruma Kensai could only retreat to avoid the thunder of lightning. Muguruma Kensai, who had just dodged, charged directly towards Arisawa Tatsuki, and Arisawa Tatsuki also raised his spear and charged towards Muguruma Kensai. Bang bang bang, dang dang, Arisawa Tatsuki, Muguruma Kensai. Two people kept fighting. The spear and the dagger kept intersecting, making a fierce collision sound, and the two people's feet were also different to attack each other, counterattack the opponent while blocking the opponent's attack. To be able to reach a tie with Quangshi after Hollow, Love Akawa said incredulously, looking at the two people fighting fiercely. Tinley, this Zanpakuto's ability is really too strong. That Zanpakuto can be said to be the strongest Zanpakuto of lightning. Hirako Shinji looked at the two people who were fighting fiercely and said silently in his heart, although after several days of combat training, but Long Gui has not been able to adapt to the state after Hollow, so Long Gui is still not the opponent of Quangshi, just because he has the power of Tinley, so the two talents have no winner. By the way, speaking, Long Gui, it seems that it is still impossible to fully control the Bankai of Tinley, and only a rough use has such power. If he can fully control it, then Long Gui is estimated to be enough even if he does not practice Hollow. Time's up, Love Akawa said. As soon as he finished speaking, the mask on Arisawa Tatsuki's face clicked, and then the mask on Arisawa Tatsuki's face shattered. Advertisement. Muguruma Kensai looked at the situation in front of him, stretched out his hand slightly and pushed up the mask on his face, looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, "Cut, is this gone? It's really boring, can't you hide and hold on?" Cut. Hearing this, Muguruma Kensai did not refute and then did it in place. Hearing this, Hirako Shinji said, "Of course it was Long Gui who said that your cooking is delicious, so there is such a scene. You are not denying it." Hirako Shinji looked at Ichigo cautiously. "Why do you want to eat my cooking so much?" Ichigo asked in confusion. "Huh?" Arisawa Tatsuki snorted coldly. "You guys are really troublesome. I just learned to Hollow not long ago. Well, it's normal for things to happen, but it's not the main thing, so my mask is broken. What are you doing? Didn't take the opportunity to attack me." HMPH, Muguruma Kensai, will never shoot at someone who can't resist. But Arisawa Tatsuki, how long will it take you to continue Hollow? Seeing this, Arisawa Tatsuki also rested, and even the Spear of Retribution has changed back to Shikai form. Then I'm relieved. After speaking, he sat down next to Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Ichigo wanted to beat him up, but he held back. "Don't worry, I do need some time to recover," Arisawa Tatsuki said. "Muguruma Kensai, if you use the same level of strength in the morning, I'm afraid you can only escape alone." Hearing this, Ichigo laughed, and even Yoruichi laughed, and Yoruichi said, "Really, don't be so afraid of Ichigo, he won't be angry with these little things." Hirako Shinji also breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. Chapter 172. Hashijin. "Really?" Hashijin looked at Inoue Orihime and said, "So this is your ability?" "Sure enough, it's like mine." Hashijin stretched out his hand slightly, and a small enchantment appeared on Hachigen's palm, yellow the boundary. "Really, it's exactly the same as the ability we created." Beside Inoue Orihime, Dunshun Luha floated beside Inoue Orihime. "It's the first time I've seen a human with the same abilities as me." Hashijin looked at Inoue Orihime and said, "If possible, I want to train you. I don't know if you're willing." "Training?" Inoue Orihime said a little, then nodded. "Yes, then everything is up to you." "Didn't you think about it?" Hashijin looked at Inoue Orihime and asked suspiciously, "I thought you would think about it before agreeing." "I want to help Long Gui," Inoue Orihime said while looking at Hashijin. "You want to fight?" Hashijin looked at Inoue Orihime and asked with some doubts. "If so, then I advise you to give up this idea. Your strength and mine come from the same source, so you must also like me, not great in combat, but we can help our comrades in other areas, such as healing and rescue, where we can help our comrades." "No, I didn't mean to fight." Inoue Orihime shook his head slightly. "I know my abilities, I am not suitable for fighting. According to Ichigo, I am too soft-hearted. If I were on the battlefield, I would definitely the first to be killed. But I hope I can get training to make myself stronger and have the ability to survive on the battlefield. In this way, I can help Long Gui. Is that so?" "I know, I'll train you." Hashijin said, "But now I'm going to help Ichigo train, and you're human, and your training method is different from ours. I need to think about it, so, you go back first. I will think about how to strengthen your training, and when the training starts, I will let Shinji pick you up." Katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot. "Are you really going to train her? Zauba?" Itoribashi Rojiro said, standing behind Hashijin. In this case, as a human, she is too fragile, and even training will not be a great achievement. Yes, I know. Hashijin nodded slightly and looked at the figure of Inoue Orihime leaving in the distance. But this is the first time I have seen a human with similar abilities like me, and she has a very close relationship with Arisawa. If something happens to her, then it will definitely affect Yu's. In order to deal with that guy, we need more strength. Although our strength has increased several times compared to 100 years ago. But the face we still don't have much chance of winning against that guy. Not just because that guy's power is also increasing, but more because we've all seen that guy's Zanpakuto liberate, and we've all been given hypnosis by his Zanpakuto. Once the real if we fight, then we will be completely caught in that guy's design, and the odds of winning are infinitely close to zero. And Jiro, you know, I know, Shinji knows it, everyone knows it, so when Urahara Kazuki came to him, he wanted us to help when Arazawa and Mr. Kurosaki were training, we both agreed, because Arazawa and Mr. Kurosaki are the only ones who have not seen that guy's Zanpakuto liberate, and also have power, especially Mr. Kurosaki's power is beyond our imagination, just like another Aizen. No, it should be said that she is a more terrible person than Aizen. And Aizen's hollow training has not been completed, but we can all imagine the situation after Aizen completes the hollow training. But the last time Arrancar attacked, although they don't know how much information about Mr. Kurosaki their masters have, they will definitely bring Mr. Kurosaki's situation back to that guy. That guy is a perfectionist. According to that guy's character, he will definitely attack Mr. Kurosaki and Arisawa, but he will definitely attack Arisawa first, because there is a big gap between her strength and Mr. Kurosaki's strength, and Mr. Kurosaki and Arisawa are human beings. They have human emotions and 6 desires. If the guy takes advantage of this, then Mr. Kurosaki aside, Arazawa will jump into the trap without hesitation even if he knows it's a trap. So I want to help Inoue Orihime in training, because in this way, it is equivalent to helping Orihime. And helping you Z is helping ourselves. You're right. Itoribashi Rojiro said, but Inoue Orihime, she is just an ordinary human. Compared with several other equally capable human beings, she has too much weakness, neither has Ishida Yu. The dragon's mind doesn't have the body of Sado Yasutora, she just has the ability to control time similar to yours. If you want to train her, I'm afraid it's not that easy. But it's too troublesome. Yes, I understand, thank you. Inoue Orihime bowed slightly to Hashijin. Then I'll go first. Then Inoue Orihime turned and left. Yes, I know. Hashijin replied slightly. Be you. Itoribashi Rojiro shrugged, then turned around and said, okay, Zauba, it's time to go back. The battle between Arisawa and Kenshi is expected to resume soon. This time Arisawa may pour out all his strength, if you don't. If we strengthen the barrier a little more, Arisawa's aura will leak out. If those Shinigami come to our door, although we are not afraid. I know, I'll try my best, Hashijin began. Chapter 173, Wanda Wise. Hueco Mundo. A huge palace. Inside the palace, Aizen Sosuke, the traitor of the Soul Society, is sitting high on the throne, with a refined smile on his face, and his eyes are very gentle, if only from the surface. We'll never believe that he is a ruthless person. Aizen stood up slightly, looked at the 10 Arrancars below, and said, then it's almost time to start. In the middle of all the Arrancars, there was a human figure but with countless bandages, placed in a glass container. Aizen took out the Hōgyoku, put Hōgyoku in the glass container and said, Hōgyoku awakened 50%, as expected, but it is estimated that the Soul Society knows about it, but those who have not had direct contact with Hōgyoku will not know one thing. No, maybe even Urahara Kazuki, who was sealed immediately after, May 27th, after the development of Hōgyoku, might not know if Hōgyoku, who has been released from the seal and is in a sleeping state, temporarily merges with someone who is several times higher than the captain level Ryatsu. Having said this, Aizen stretched out his hand and placed his hand above Hōgyoku, only to see Hōgyoku for a moment. It turned black completely, and then stretched out some sails and stuck it on Aizen's fingers. As long as it is temporarily fused, it will be able to exert the same ability as a fully awakened state in an instant. Speaking of this, I saw Hōgyoku issuing a dazzling light, and it is getting brighter. With a bang sound, the glass container in front of him was completely shattered, and there was a person inside the container. Of course, it looked like a boy with yellow hair and a Madara face, with a crown-shaped mask on top of his head. Aizen stood in front of him and looked at him condescendingly. Can you tell me, your name? Our new compatriots? Wandawise. Wandawise Margera. Really? Aizen turned to look at Ulquiorra and said, remember the order I gave you before? Ulquiorra? Yes, Aizen-sama. Go and implement it. Aizen's mouth rose slightly and said, I give you the right to decide, you decide how to deal with it yourself. Also, you can bring someone you like. After that, Aizen turned his head and gave a slight meal. Oh, yes, do you want to go together, Grimmjow? Grimmjow looked at Aizen with a special meaning in his eyes. The smile on Aizen's face deepened, he smiled and said, don't look at me like that, Grimmjow. I just suddenly remembered that Ulquiorra and Yami came back from this world. After you read his information, you seem to have a lot of interest in that Kurosaki Ichigo interested. To be honest, I am very optimistic about that guy. Since you are interested in him, Then I will allow you to go this time, and you do not need to participate in Grimjow's plan. Hey, Grimjow, who had been sitting on the ground, stood up and said, yes, Aizen-sama. I will test whether that guy is qualified to make you pay attention. Really? Aizen turned his head and said, then it will be your hard work. After saying that, Aizen didn't speak anymore and turned to leave. After Aizen left, Ulquiorra glanced at the Arankars present and said, anyone interested? Advertisement, in this world? I'm going, Yami said immediately. All the other Arankars turned and left, is that so? Ulquiorra glanced at him and turned slightly to leave, but Ulquiorra, who had just left, felt that someone was holding him back, and at this moment Ulquiorra's Kongtong he shrank suddenly and turned his head, only to see Wandawise pulling his sleeve. Ulquiorra's pupils shrank slightly, and secretly said, this guy can grab my clothes without me noticing, absolutely not ordinary character, his power is probably not under ours. Wandawise made such a sound. Ulquiorra got up and glanced at him and turned around. Go and put on your clothes. 10 minutes later, outside the Suya Palace, I will open the Black Voice. If you want to come, go there when the time comes. Ulquiorra turned to leave. Wandawise let go as soon as Ulquiorra spoke. Rookie, you want to go to the world? I have no opinion, but don't hold us back then, Yami said, and immediately followed up with Ulquiorra who had already left. Only Wandawiselu was left in the room. There is a sound. On the other hand, the present, Bankai's Spear of Retribution. Arisawa Tatsuki's Black Death Fighter suit turned into a suit of armor, holding a golden spear in his right hand. As Bankai? Muguruma Kensai looked at Arisawa Tatsuki and said, then let me see how much power you have in this state, hollow. Of course. Arisawa Tatsuki raised his hand slightly to cover his face and said, I won't show mercy, Muguruma Kensai. Neither will I. Muguruma Kensai held the dagger in his hand and said, I will use real power. If your power is not enough, then I will kill you. When saying this, the dagger in Muguruma Kensai's hand it seemed to exude a tinge of cold light. I will fight you with the attitude of killing you, Arisawa Tatsuki said softly. At this time, the whites of Arisawa Tatsuki's eyes turned black, and in an instant, a mask appeared on Arisawa Tatsuki's face. Hey, Muguruma Kensai also had a mask on his face. Although they are masks after hollow, the shapes of the masks of the two people are indeed completely different. After all, everyone's soul is different. It's just that the probability is too small, and every time Zanpakuto appears the same, Jingling Court will immediately intervene to evaluate the potential and value of the two Shinigami, and then assign the potential and value to the one with higher potential and value. And the other is secretly disposed of. I don't know why, but Jinglingting has always done this, keeping all Zanpakuto in a unique state. But now everyone's masks are different, perhaps because the number of people is too small. After all, there are only 8 people in addition to the masked army, and even if you add Arisawa Tatsuki and Ichigo Yoruichi, there are only 11 people. Even if you want to repeat it, it's not that easy. Chapter 174. Suppression. And while Arisawa Tatsuki and Muguruma Kensai sparred, Ichigo sensed some virtual Ryotsu, and Ulquiorra and Yami were there. And Yoruichi also sensed it, so Ichigo said to Hirako Shinji, let's go out for a while. Hirako Shinji was also very puzzled after hearing this, but did not stop saying, oh, come back early. Hear this. Ichigo and Yoruichi nodded, and Shunpo was gone. After Ichigo and Yoruichi left, Hirako Shinji said in confusion, what are they doing? It won't be. Before he finished speaking, his face turned pale. Seeing this scene, Atoribashi Rojiro reminded, don't think about anything else, or Ichigo and Yoruichi will clean up you when they come back. Hearing this, Hirako Shinji also put away his own imitation, and then said seriously, Fung, what did you say? Seeing this scene, Atoribashi Rojiro also shook his head helplessly, and continued to watch the battle between Arisawa Tatsuki and Muguruma Kensai. On the other hand, Ichigo and Yoruichi are rushing towards the place where Ryotsu exudes emptiness, because that place is very close to where Inoue Orihime is. So Ichigo thinks it should be the chapter where Ulquiorra is going to catch Inoue Orihime and go to Hueco Mundo. So Ichigo went to protect Inoue Orihime first for the sake of her safety. 26. Ichigo. Then why did Shu come to this world again? And it's very close to Orihime. Yoruichi asked Ichigo, and Ichigo said after hearing it, I don't know this either, maybe it's to arrest her and friendness or not. Yes, we don't know anymore, so we have to rush to take precautions. Yoruichi also nodded when he heard this. Then Ichigo and Yoruichi both speeded up and rushed there. After rushing to where, those emptiness also came out of the black cavity. This is the world. Grimjow looked around and said, sure enough, it is countless times better than Hueco Mundo, and there are not many powerful ones at all, and there are so many souls without any resistance to eat, no wonder those rubbish I come here from time to time. I'm going to carry out the task of Lord Aizen, you can play as much as you like, but... Ulquiorra looked at them and said, in reality, Shinigami has settled in, and your task is to attract their attention and stop them while playing, otherwise, if you can't complete the task of Lord Aizen. Ulquiorra didn't finish speaking, he stopped here, then turned around and left immediately. The other two, Yami and Grimjow, were silent for a while, they didn't dare to really disobey Aizen, and for what Aizen ordered, they might slack off a little bit, but they didn't dare not to finish it. For Ulquiorra's words, they did not refute the slightest. Advertisement. Why did you just leave? It seems rude to leave as soon as we met, Ichigo said lazily. Hearing this, the three of them shrank their pupils, and then looked at the place where the voice came out. Ichigo was sitting on a house not far from them, holding Yoruichi lazily and watching them. Ulquiorra, Yami, isn't this the Shinigami who beat you so badly? Grimmjow asked Ulquiorra and Yami sarcastically, and Yami was very angry when he heard this. What did you say, Grimmjow? Do you want to fight? Hearing this, Grimmjow cut with disdain, and Ulquiorra quickly came to Ichigo's face and said respectfully, I'm very sorry, Lord Kurosaki, I couldn't find your existence, please forgive me. Seeing this scene, Ulquiorra's eyes flashed a trace of dissatisfaction, which was dissatisfaction with Grimmjow, because as long as Ichigo got angry and killed them all, it would be fine, but Ulquiorra could not accept the task of not completing Aizen Sosuke, so Ulquiorra was somewhat dissatisfied. And after Ichigo hit Grimmjow, Yami went to pick Grimmjow quickly after catching him, because Ichigo used a lot of strength after catching him, so Yami also stepped back a few meters, and when he saw Grimmjow, he was already dazed fall down. With a dang sound, the collision between Zanpakuto and his fingers was not what Grimmjow expected, but was securely blocked, without any damage to Ichigo's fingers. Grimmjow's pupils shrank when he saw this scene, and Ichigo was facing him. His face punched, but although Grimmjow saw it, his body couldn't react, and he was hit in the face and flew out. Hearing this, Ichigo was a little embarrassed and said, It's alright, and you are suddenly so respectful towards me, which makes me a little embarrassed. Hearing this, Yoruichi chuckled, and Ulquiorra was very puzzled, but also did not ask. Then what are you doing here again? Ichigo asked Ulquiorra, before Ulquiorra said, Grimmjow said first. What's your business, you Shinigami? Hearing his arrogant tone, Ichigo was a little dissatisfied, and when he wanted to teach him a lesson, Ulquiorra gave Grimmjow a slap and said to me, I'm so sorry, Lord Kurosaki. Seeing Ulquiorra's shot, so Ichigo doesn't care, but Grimmjow was suddenly slapped by Ulquiorra and shouted angrily at Ulquiorra. What are you doing, Ulquiorra? Do you want to fight? Hearing this, Ulquiorra said without any expression, I am saving you, otherwise, Lord Kurosaki will do it, and you will be dead. Grimmjow was even more angry when he heard this, but he was not angry with Grimmjow, but with Ichigo, and Ulquiorra bowed to me very respectfully, then he said, I'm so sorry, Lord Kurosaki. When Ichigo was about to speak, a figure appeared in front of Ichigo, and it was a slash to Ichigo. And seeing Grimmjow attacking himself, Ichigo was not surprised, because Ichigo already knew his character in the original book, so he expected him to shoot. Seeing him beheading him, Ichigo raised his hand slowly and then stretched out a finger. Grimmjow, who saw this scene, was very disdainful, because he thought how could his attack be blocked by a finger, and even more mocking for Ulquiorra being respectful to Ichigo. And seeing this scene, Yami is very fortunate, because he is already a little afraid of Ichigo. This is also the prestige of higher life over lower life. It can be said that the gap between the king and the common people, so the king is born to compare with his inferior characters, there was this suppression, so Yami and the others were very afraid of Ichigo. With the improvement of Ichigo's strength, his life level has also improved a lot, and Ichigo and Yoruichi's current strength has been improved to the strongest super captain, which is the 25th level. The first person under the Spirit King is not talking about it. Of Chapter 175, Wanda Wise exits the stage. And when Ulquiorra and the others came to this world, the location they appeared was exactly where Toshiro was, because Toshiro was just gathering to communicate with their Zanpakuto, because they wanted to communicate, so everyone was Shinigami's state. As for Yoshisune, after eating Yoshikuma, let them go out to play by themselves. It's just that this exchange was a failure. It was going well originally, but Matsumoto Rangaku and Ayasagawa Yumachika suddenly broke out. Matsumoto Rangaku and Ayasagawa Yumachika both took their Zanpakuto and lost their temper, while their mouths kept talking, complaining about the shortcomings of Zanpakuto, but in fact, the shortcomings of Zanpakuto are their own shortcomings, but neither humans nor Shinigami can see it, but when they see it in others, they will be extremely I hate this shortcoming, but I didn't think about it at all, or I didn't want to think about it. This shortcoming is very obvious on myself, and everyone else knows it except myself. Because of Ayasagawa Yumachika and Matsumoto Rangaku, the others, Hitsugaya Toshiro, Madarame Mikaku, Rukia, and their Zanpakuto completely failed to communicate with each other. After all, with two super loud speakers around, it was impossible to calm down. How could it be possible to communicate with Zanpakuto? So the moment Hitsugaya Toshiro was interrupted, his anger rose directly, and the word, well, appeared on his forehead. And at the moment Hitsugaya Toshiro's anger rose, the space above them was opened. From the moment he felt Ryotsu, Hitsugaya Toshiro knew that it was the black cavity that was opened, and the black cavity was only the door that Shu would use. But when Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at the figures in the black cavity, he was stunned for a moment. There were 9 people in front of him, and each of them had this virtual mask on their face, but the same Zanpakuto. Captain, according to what Mr. Kurosaki met before, they're broken. Matsumoto Rangaku said standing behind Hitsugaya Toshiro, but Hitsugaya Toshiro did not answer, because his eyes were among the 3 people in the front. Although he doesn't know who these 3 people are, he can feel that the strength of these 3 people is no longer his own. It was even faintly above him. In other words, the opponent had 3 captains or surpassed them, but on his side, he was the only captain. There was no other person who could fight against the captain. Strength. But thinking of strength, Hitsugaya Dashiro once again noticed the 6 people behind the other party. One of them, squatting there, didn't have much Ryotsu gushing out from his body, so he was automatically ignored, and the other 5 people, although they did not reach the captain level, however, he possesses power beyond that of a vice captain. That is to say, in terms of quality, the other side has 3 captains, 5 beyond the existence of vice captains, there is only 1 captain on his side, and 3 vice captains. Hitsugaya Dashiro does not know the real Shikai of Yasugawa Yumachika, nor does Madarame Makaku Kanbankai, but he also knows that the 2 of them are not weak in combat, so he only regards them as vice captains. As for Rukia, although the current Rukia's strength is not weak, it has not yet reached the level of vice captains. In terms of numbers, there are 9 people on the other side, but there are only 5 people on their side. No matter how they compare, they are all at an absolute disadvantage. The best way is probably to escape, but Hitsugaya Dashiro is not the kind of person who can escape. As Shinigami, especially since he is still the captain, even if he is killed on the spot, he will not escape. In this case, he has only one choice left, that is, to delay as much as possible and wait for the reinforcements of the Soul Society. Thinking of this, Hitsugaya Dashiro directly Zanpakuto was holding his hand and aimed faintly at several Arankars in the sky, but Ichigo and Yoruichi came when he was about to attack, and seeing Ichigo coming, Hitsugaya Dashiro was also very relaxed, because he didn't have any solutions, but Ichigo can definitely solve them. Then, seeing that one of the Arankars was very respectful to Ichigo, and seeing that Ichigo abused one of the Arankars very easily, Hitsugaya Dashiro looked at Ichigo with admiration. And when Ichigo finished Grimmjow, Wanda Wise suddenly came behind Ichigo, the handle was a jab, and he punched Ichigo's heart. Everyone's pupils shrank when they saw this scene, but the parties did not put it in my heart, but say, 6 light prison. After the 6 paths light film locks Wanda Wise's actions. As for Ulquiorra and Yami, one is afraid of not completing the task given to him by Aizen Sosuke, and the other is afraid that he will be killed like Wandawaith. Seeing Ichigo's actions, Grimmjow's subordinate officer, Li Liaojiao, also ignored Ichigo's beating up of his master, leaving only deep fear, fearing that Grimmjow had solved himself. Ah? Wandawise struggled and screamed, but it was useless, and Ichigo and Yoruichi were a little dissatisfied when he heard his scream. But Ichigo was very angry when he saw that Yoruichi didn't like his scream. He said calmly, "Since you don't like me, I'll kill him." After that, picking up Zanpakuto was a slash. "You guys are really weak." After 35 finished speaking, a terrifying black Ryotsu emerged from Ichigo, and this Ryotsu beam of light directly blew away the clouds in the sky, making it cloudless. And the people here, whether it is Shinigami or Arankar, are enveloped by this huge and powerful Ryotsu. They are all lying on the ground, and in reality, everyone who feels Ichigo's Ryotsu is startled, and then they are all shocked. This stream of Ryotsu pressed some on their stomachs and some on their knees, and even those ordinary people were no exception. It felt like the sky was falling. And Wandawise was cut in half by Ichigo. Before he could roar, Ichigo chopped a few more knives into tiny pieces, and then disappeared with a single blow. Wandawise is like this, and it didn't take long for him to burp. Seeing this scene, Hitsugaya Dashiro and their Shinigami couldn't believe it, because Bakuto could actually cast it instantly, and he could radiate this powerful power without chant. Ulquiorra was very nervous after seeing Ichigo's impatient look and hearing Ichigo's words, because he was afraid that because of Wandawise's actions, Ichigo would kill them all. So Ulquiorra didn't want to provoke Ichigo, so Ulquiorra told Wandawise and Ichigo did not speak when he shot. Chapter 176. Ryotsu. All the people in the world under Ichigo's huge Ryotsu are either lying on the ground or kneeling, and the Shinigami, Quincy and Mask who feel this Ryotsu are even more surprised and frightened, because Ichigo uses Ryotsu to put all of them were crushed to the ground, so they were all shocked. "Ryotsu, is Ichigo's full strength?" said Hiriko Shinji of Kamen-Core. "Yeah, what a terrible power," Atoribashi Rojiro said. "I didn't expect Ichigo to be so powerful. I really don't know how to surpass Ichigo," Arisawa Tatsuki said helplessly. The other masked troops were also very surprised and helpless. And Urahara Kazuki and others in the Urahara store also felt this Ryotsu outrageously, and Urahara Kazuki said, "I didn't expect Mr. Kurosaki to be so strong now, it's scary. Even Aizen should not be his rival." 35. After Urahara Kazuki finished speaking, Tessai Tsukabishi also said, "Yeah, I didn't expect that Mr. Kurosaki's strength 527 has reached this level." And Sado Yasutora and the 2 little devils in the Urahara store were also shrouded in this Ryotsu and couldn't move, and Sado Yasutora felt this Ryotsu was very familiar and said, "This is Ichigo's Ryotsu. It turns out Ichigo's strength is so terrifying." When Ishida Yulong was training with Ishida Ryugen, suddenly this Ryotsu was pressed down, and they were both pressed to the ground, and Ishida Ryugen felt this Ryotsu and said, "I didn't expect it. Ishin's son, the strength is so strong." Because Ishida Longshuan's voice was very low, Ishida Yulong did not hear it. But Yuryu Ishida was also very surprised after sensing this Ryotsu. "This is Kurosaki Ichigo's The Kurosaki Ishin couple and Kurosaki Shirley sisters who stayed at home felt a little depressed after feeling Ryotsu, but they did not lie on the ground like Hiriko Shinji and Urahara Kazuki, and the Kurosaki Ishin couple felt the strength of Ichigo. After being strong, he was very pleased and said, I didn't expect Ichigo's strength to grow to such a level. Yeah, I really didn't expect it, and Ichigo also has excellent talents in other areas. Kurosaki said here. The sisters were also very puzzled and asked, Mom, is this depressing feeling because of my brother? Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki also felt that he had to tell them something, so he took them to the side and started talking. Advertisement and the worst is to say the execution organization. Some people may not know it, the members of this organization are all fullbringers, so why say the worst? That's because they haven't on the stage. Ichigo's Ryotsu was already pressed down on the ground, and their leader Ginjo Kongo was feeling this huge force that he didn't even imagine who could have this Ryotsu. He felt despair and fear. Tsukishima Shukiro, who was pressed to the ground by this Ryotsu, said in horror. How is it possible? How is it possible? Impossible, who would have such a powerful Ryotsu? Because he couldn't accept Ichigo's huge Ryotsu, so the original calm look has been lost. And Ginjo Kugo saw Tsukishima Shukiro who was about to collapse and said, Tsukishima calm down. Hearing this, Tsukishima Hidekuro also calmed down, and Ginjo Kugo was also very happy to see this, but because this Ryotsu was pressing, I still looked seriously at the place where this Ryotsu came from and said, what kind of character is this? And Ichigo was looking at them and said, okay, go back to Hueco Mundo. Everyone was shocked when they heard this, because they thought Ichigo was so serious just now, and they thought they were going to kill all those dummies. What? And those Arankars thought they were going to die, but who would have thought that would be the case? Because Yoruichi knew that Ichigo was just saying this to scare them, so Yoruichi didn't say anything? After Ichigo's Ryotsu disappeared, all the humans gasped for breath, hoping to relieve the pain of suffocation just now, and after they could breathe normally, they recovered and looked at the sky. All human beings look at the sky, because it was like the sky was falling down just now, and the feeling is very bad, so because of their curiosity, they all look at the sky, hoping to see something, but they are just ordinary, it's just human, so I don't see anything. As Ichigo put away Ryotsu, all the people in this world let out a sigh of relief, and everyone got up without Ichigo Ryotsu's oppression, and Hitsugaya Toshiro bowed to Ichigo and said, Thank you so much Mingduya. Hearing this, Ichigo said calmly, It's nothing, I just think that I will kill all human beings, this world will become a lifeless world. There was a burst of shame, and Yoruichi snickered when he heard this. And Ulquiorra saw this scene and did not stop it, and after Grimmjow entered, several of his subordinate officers followed, and after all of them entered, Ulquiorra said to Ichigo, Thank you for your kindness, Lord Kurosaki. After that, he walked in with Yami, and after they walked in, the black voice was closed. People far away from CGBE, Ichigo Ryotsu were so unbearable, while Arankar and Shinigami not far from Ichigo were directly crushed to the ground, and they were crushed to the ground, and the people around Ichigo were crushed. The ground was blown up by Ichigo's Ryotsu. At this time, Hitsugaya Toshiro said to Ichigo with great difficulty, Your Excellency Kurosaki, please put away the Ryotsu on your body. Otherwise, people in this world will be suffocated by your Ryotsu. It was found that the humans on the ground were lying on the ground and breathing hard because their strength was not very strong, and it was as if they were about to die, and Ichigo put Ryotsu away when he saw this scene. And Ulquiorra looked at Ichigo very strangely when he heard this, and then he didn't hesitate, and immediately opened the black cavity. And Grimmjow also got up, gave me a terrified look, and then entered the black cavity first. Chapter 177. Complex. And after finishing the matter, Ichigo said to Hitsugaya Toshiro and the others, Okay, it's settled too, so we both leave. Hearing this, Hitsugaya Toshiro nodded and said, Thank you so much for your help, and Matsumoto Rangaku thought to himself, Yes. This help is really high, it affects people all over the world. Then Ichigo didn't care about them, just carried Yoruichi and rushed to the masked army. On the way Yoruichi asked Ichigo, Why did you suddenly release all your strength today? Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, I'm just a little dissatisfied because I can't play well at all, and I have to suppress my strength to play with them, I really can't bear it. Hearing this, Yoruichi also agrees, because with the strength of the two of them now, even Soul Society and Hueco Mundo can't beat them together. And Yoruichi said to Ichigo, Okay, don't think about it too much, there's something else anyway, isn't the world? Hearing this, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, Honey, you were right. After that, he kissed Yoruichi's forehead. Then Yoruichi was also very happy, and then arched into Ichigo's arms, and then Ichigo also touched Yoruichi's head, and then continued to walk towards the Kamen Legion's base, while looking at his own attributes and Yoruichi's on the way. Attributes. Name. Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku, S*X. Male age, 15. Spouse. Shihouin Yoruichi, Soul, Potential, Unlimited. Ryotsu. Super Captain, Level 25 and 87,652 100,000. Zanpakuto. The Perfect Zanjetsu, Final Solution. Kido. General Advertisement Shunpo, General White Hits, General. Slash. General Combat Experience. General Crescent Moon Sky Chong. General. Crackling Flash. General No Moon. General Hollow. General. Backpack. Character Fragments X87652, Intermediate Experience Beads X20000, Advanced Experience Beads X19000, Super Experience Beads X18000, Breakthrough Cards X600. Name. Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku, Gender, Female. Age. 143. Spouse. Kurosaki Ichigo, Soul, Potential, Unlimited. Ryatsu. Super Captain, Level 25 and 87,652 100,000ths. Zanpakuto. Night Fist, Final Solution. Advertisement Keto. General Shunpo, General White Hits, General. Slash. General Combat Experience. General Instant Open, General Level. Thor. General Hollow. General Backpack. Character Fragments X87652, Intermediate Experience Beads X20000, Advanced Experience Beads X1900, Super Experience Beads X1800, Breakthrough Cards X600. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was also very satisfied, and then quickly accelerated towards the masked army, and came to the front of the warehouse in a blink of an eye. Katakana middle dot flowers katakana middle dot, and it was at the door of the warehouse, so everyone was standing there, because they were a little puzzled by Ichigo's Ryatsu. They didn't expect Ichigo's strength to be so powerful, and now Ichigo is even their masked army. I can't even touch the edge of his clothes, and I'm not even sure if I can hold on to Ichigo's Ryatsu. Why did they come out to greet us? Ichigo asked them. And when they heard it, they had black lines on their faces, but they didn't lose their temper. At this time, Arisawa Tatsuki looked at Ichigo and asked, Ichigo, that Ryatsu is you. When I saw this, Ichigo understood that it was because of the difference in strength that they were very unfamiliar, and then smiled and said, yes? I released the Ryatsu just now. Hearing everyone here took a breath, and seeing this scene, Ichigo said helplessly, I'm still me, don't think that I'm not easy to get along with because of this matter. Go in with Yoruichi. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji laughed and said, that's right, no matter how strong Ichigo is, isn't he our comrade? If our comrade's strength is strong, wouldn't it be a little strange that we would distance ourselves from him? Everyone in the masked army also recovered their senses, then nodded to Hiriko Shinji, and followed the warehouse, BU. Chapter 178. Help improve. And after they all went back, Hitsugaya Dashiro reported to Yamamoto Yuanlaojai of the Soul Society. Today Arankar came to the world, thanks to Lord Kurosaki coming. After that, he told Yamamoto Yuanlaojai about everything that happened, and Yamamoto Yuanlaojai pondered after hearing this. Yamamoto Yuanlaojai thought, I didn't expect Kurosaki Ichigo's strength to have reached this level, and now he is not much weaker than the people in the Zero Team. No, or rather, it should have surpassed them. This kind of existence cannot be offended. After thinking about it, he said to Hitsugaya Dashiro, okay, I also understand what happened in this world today. Since Lord Kurosaki helped you today, I will thank him tomorrow, and be respectful. Hearing this, Hitsugaya Dashiro also understood in his heart how to say hey, 530. His Excellency Sake has helped us. Of course, he also thought that he would thank him tomorrow, and then said, understood. When it was time to turn off the machine, Yamamoto Yuanlaojai said, by the way, if you can, follow the Lord Kurosaki to ask him how to practice. After that, he turned off. Hearing this, Hitsugaya Dashiro was a little helpless, because he didn't know if Ichigo would tell him the secret of his cultivation, so he smiled wryly and turned off the machine before leaving the room. Outside the room, Matsumoto Rangaku watched Hitsugaya Dashiro come out with a wry smile, and asked, what's wrong? Captain. Hearing this, Hitsugaya Dashiro told her what happened just now. After she heard it, she said angrily, really, how could your Excellency Commander-in-Chief hand over such a difficult thing to a captain? And you are still asking your Excellency Kurosaki the secret of cultivation, isn't this what a robber does? Hearing what Hitsugaya Dashiro had said before, he would definitely reprimand Matsumoto Rangaku, but he also knew that this was indeed the case, so he walked into his temporary room with great annoyance. And Matsumoto Rangaku was no longer like that when he saw Hitsugaya Dashiro walk into the room, but walked to the balcony and looked at the distance with a very painful expression. After Ichigo and Yoruichi came back, Ichigo was surrounded by people from the masked army. They all looked at Ichigo with very puzzled and strange eyes, making him feel like a very strange animal. And Ichigo couldn't stand their eyes anymore, so he said, why are you looking at me all the time? If you have any questions, just say. When I heard the people of the masked army here, Ichigo said, one by one come. Hearing that everyone here stopped talking again, and seeing this scene, Ichigo was also very helpless, and then said to Hiriko Shinji, Shinji, you come first. Advertisement. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji was very proud and looked at the rest of the masked army, like saying, look, Ichigo still feels the best. After the people of the masked army saw it, Muguruma Kensai directly kicked it. He kicked and the rest gave him a kick, and Hiriko Shinji stood up and looked at them and yelled, who did it, 99. And those people didn't seem to know at all. They looked at other places whistling, and Yoruichi laughed when he saw it. Ichigo also smiled helplessly and said, okay, let's talk, just ask anything you want, just ask. Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji said to the rest of the masked army, you wait for me, Then he looked at Ichigo and asked, Ichigo, how did you become so strong? Can you tell us? And I also, can you be this strong? When Hiriko Shinji finished asking, the rest of the masked corps also leaked expressions of wanting to know. Seeing this scene, Ichigo asked, is this the only question you want to ask? All nodded. But although Ichigo still wants to improve their strength, this ability is limited for those who are not bound by the system, only once a week. But they didn't complain, because this is the improvement of strength. Although it is once a week, it is better than those who haven't improved once in hundreds of years. This ability belongs to the new master of Ichigo, and it cannot be said to be the knowledge of the new master. Ichigo has never found that the system can also help people who are not bound by the system to improve their strength, so I discovered it recently, and it also helped the Kurosaki couple and Urahara Kazuki to improve. After a while, the Kurosaki and his wife have entered the first order level of the captain, and Urahara Kazuki has entered the second rank of the captain. When they found out, they were very surprised, and then they were careful, because if this ability was exposed, Ichigo's enemy may be the world 1.4. And after they reminded Ichigo many times, they were relieved. When the Kamen Corps heard that they were revived, they looked at Ichigo with anticipation, and Ichigo looked at Hiriko Shinji and said, Shinji, come here. Hearing that, Hiriko Shinji also came to Ichigo's side, and Ichigo said, sit down and don't reject my Ryotsu, okay? Hearing this, Hiriko Shinji gave Ichigo a puzzled look and then nodded. Seeing this, Ichigo didn't really want them to be disappointed, so he said, don't be too disappointed, I'll show you now. Yoruichi revealed a surprised expression, and Ichigo voiced to Yoruichi, I'm just helping them improve their strength, I won't reveal it. Yoruichi understood what Ichigo meant after saying that, and nodded. Because Yoruichi knows that Ichigo's strength is all because of the system, but the system must not be said to others casually, right? That's why Yoruichi revealed that he didn't know anything. Then Ichigo used the system to turn the character fragments into Hiriko Shinji's fragments, and then used 2000 fragments to help Hiriko Shinji enter the first level of the captain's level, and when Hiriko Shinji's strength entered the captain's level, because Hiriko Shinji he didn't control his Ryotsu very well, so Hiriko Shinji's Ryotsu formed a Ryotsu column that shot straight into the sky, and only Ryotsu surprised everyone in Kamen Army. No way. Hiriko Shinji said in dismay, while others leaked the same expressions as him. When Ichigo saw it, he smiled at everyone and said, I don't know how to say this question. The people who heard the masked army shouted in surprise, and then looked at Yoruichi, and Yoruichi leaned on she stared at the wall as if she didn't know anything. Then Ichigo did it and put his hand on Hiriko Shinji's back, and then used the ability of the system to help Hiriko Shinji's strength level up. Chapter 179. Collective Ascension. The people of the masked army were surprised when they felt Hiriko Shinji's Ryotsu, because it was too unreasonable, and it could actually help others improve their strength, which made the people of the masked army unbelievable. But the example is here in front of themselves, so they also have to believe. And Ichigo sent the character fragments into Hiriko Shinji's body, which can be said to put those soul fragments into his body, which made Hiriko Shinji's soul stronger. So Hiriko Shinji's strength became stronger, and the reason why it can't be used continuously is because the soul is strengthened. It takes a period of time to adapt, so it only takes a week to buffer and then strengthen again. Hiriko Shinji now feels that his soul seems to have become stronger, and the density of his spiritual body has also increased a lot, and after he has adapted a little, Ryotsu, who has overflowed, also returned to his body, and then Hiriko Shinji opened his eyes. His eyes were very looking at Ichigo hotly. Ichigo saw this scene and said directly, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in men. Hearing this, Yoruichi laughed, and Hiriko Shinji had a black line on his face after hearing this, and growled, I'm not interested in men either. And the rest of the masked army laughed, and then Hiriko Shinji looked at Ichigo's 26 eyes became very resentful. Seeing the look in Hiriko Shinji's eyes, Ichigo shuddered, and then asked him, how is it? After hearing this, Hiriko Shinji didn't bring up the topic again, because he was smearing himself no matter what. Then Hiriko Shinji said proudly, it's better than ever before, and now I have no problem with you guys. The people who heard the masked army here are a little dissatisfied. And suddenly the figure of Hiriko Shinji disappeared, and the rest of the Kamen Corps did not find any trace of Hiriko Shinji at all, and behind them, the voice of Hiriko Shinji sounded. I'm here. Here everyone here in return looked over, but still nothing. It turned out that when they turned back, Hiriko Shinji came to the place where they fought just now and said, here. And then they immediately turned around and saw Hiriko Shinji standing at the original place. Surprised, because Hiriko Shinji's strength has risen to such a level. Afterwards, they all looked at Ichigo eagerly, and when they saw this scene, Hiriko Shinji said, hey, I'm the protagonist. Don't you want to see my strength? Hearing Hiriko Shinji's words, the rest of the masked corps simply leaving him alone, Muguruma Kensai asked Ichigo, is it really possible to increase strength like this? And without any side effects? Hearing Muguruma Kensai's question, everyone stopped to listen to Ichigo's answer, and Ichigo looked at them and said, this has no side effects, but there is a limit. Hearing this everyone was nervous, and then Ichigo said, it just can't come in a row, it takes a week of buffering, and then you can continue to improve. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, especially Hiriko Shinji, and then all of them thought, what's the limit? This is heaven-defying. It's not good to raise once a week. Hearing Ichigo's tone, they didn't get angry either, but Ichigo's strength was very strong, so they put up with it. Then Muguruma Kensai said to Ichigo, "So can we all improve our strength?" After speaking, everyone looked at Ichigo expectantly. When Ichigo saw this scene, he smiled and said, "Of course, everyone can, but only once a week." Hearing that, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and Hiriko Shinji asked Ichigo with some concern, "So then it won't do you any harm, will it?" Advertisement. Hearing that, the rest of the masked corps also said to Ichigo, "Yes, forget it. It's okay, it doesn't have any adverse effect on anyone," Ichigo said to them, and when everyone heard this, they thought, "How can there be such a pervert ability? An army formed by a captain, or an army at the level of a captain?" Everyone shuddered at the thought of this, because such opponents are the most terrifying and can cultivate many powerful subordinates. Then Ichigo asked them, "What's the matter? Don't you want to improve your strength? Then I'll leave." When they were about to leave, the masked legion came to Ichigo's side and said to Ichigo, "No, I'm just a little surprised." And their strengths are now Sarugaki Hiyori, Yadomaru Lisa, Hashijin, Love Ikawa, Kuna Mashiro, Atoribashi Rojiro. Their strength is Captain 5th rank, while Hiriko Shinji, Muguruma Kensai and Arisawa Tatsuki's strength has become Chief Captain 1st rank. And after the strength improvement, Hiriko Shinji asked Ichigo, "Why'd I move so loudly when I increase my strength, and they are so quiet when they improve?" 9. The rest of the members, seeing Hiriko Shinji's squeamish appearance, got angry and gathered around Hiriko Shinji, and even Arisawa Tatsuki joined in. Seeing this scene, everyone looked at Ichigo suspiciously, and felt that Muguruma Kensai did not improve, but Muguruma Kensai released his current Ryotsu when he saw their eyes, and felt the current strength of Lu 530 Chess Kensai. Everyone will understand. Then let Muguruma Kensai sit down like Hiriko Shinji, then put his hands on his back, and use the system to pour the character fragments into his body, and then Muguruma Kensai's power also began to increase, and after a minute Muguruma Kensai's strength increased. It's over. And why didn't the Ryotsu pillar appear like Hiriko Shinji? It was because the first time I wanted to make them believe what I said, so I made that picture, and now it's because they believed it, so I promoted Muguruma Kensai get restrained. After that, Sarugaki Hiyori, Yadomaru Lisa, Hashijin, Love Ikawa, Kuna Mashiro, Atoribashi Rojiro, and finally Arisawa Tatsuki were all boosted by Ichigo. Hearing this sentence, everyone also looked at Ichigo, and Ichigo said to him, "Of course I gave you preferential treatment. Who told you to be the captain of this legion?" Hiriko Shinji was very happy to hear this. Said, "Ichigo, you are my best friend. I didn't expect you to see it all." And Muguruma Kensai said to Ichigo, "Ichigo, let's improve my strength first." When I heard the rest of the members were about to speak, Ichigo said, "Okay, let's start with the boxing." The rest were left to leave a little space, and they all complied. Then after a good education of Hiriko Shinji, he was very happy and left, leaving only a pig's head who was crying all the time. Chapter 180. The sadness of the masked legion. On the other side, at Hueco Mundo, Ulquiorra told Aizen Sosuke what had happened and immediately got down on one knee and said, "I'm so sorry, Aizen-sama, for not being able to complete the task you gave me." Arankar, Grimjow and Yami who went there followed Ulquiorra to their knees. And Aizen Sosuke ignored them and kept thinking about it, because Ichigo's strength was beyond his imagination. Even if Aizen Sosuke used his full strength, he seemed to be killed by Ichigo in seconds, so this also led to Aizen Sosuke as even more eager to give the power of Hōgyoku. Because this can improve Aizen Sosuke's strength, and it can also cause him to qualify for this battle with Ichigo. I didn't expect that an opponent he created by himself has surpassed him now, and it is still in the form of crushing, so this makes Aizen Sosuke very happy and annoyed. I'm happy because Aizen Sosuke has always thought that no one can be his opponent, but because of Ichigo's current achievements, Aizen Sosuke knows that he is qualified, and his current strength is not qualified to be his opponent. But Aizen Sosuke immediately returned to his usual mentality because Hōgyoku gave him confidence, and he firmly believes that Hōgyoku will definitely allow him to defeat Ichigo and evolve to a higher level. Ulquiorra, I get it, it's okay, it's just a little thing. Aizen Sosuke said to them very easily and excitedly, and then said, "This is not necessarily a bad thing." Hearing everyone here, they were very puzzled, but they didn't ask their doubts. They nodded in unison and said, "Yes, Lord Aizen." After finishing speaking, Aizen Sosuke waved his hand and let them all go down. After all Arankar went down, Tusen Kanami asked Aizen Sosuke, "Don't you need to solve the trouble of Kurosaki Ichigo now? Aizen is big. People?" Hearing this, Aizen Sosuke said easily, "A world without opponents is lonely, so leave him alone." Hearing this, Tusen Kanami said respectfully, "Yes, Aizen-sama is invincible." Listening to Tusen Kanami's words, Aizen Sosuke leaped a smile and said, "As long as Hōgyoku is in my hands, no matter how strong Kurosaki Ichigo is, it's impossible to beat me, it's just the pedal of my evolution." I heard Tusen Kanami pat Aizen Sosuke's *** with a very respectful look. When Ichimaru Jin next to him heard Aizen Sosuke's words, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. Although he was very secretive, he was still noticed by Aizen Sosuke. Then Aizen's eyes flashed a glimmer of light, but neither Tusen Kanami nor Ichimaru Jin noticed. On the other hand, after Ichigo improved the strength of the masked army, all of them were excited for a while, and then they vented their newly increased strength in the barrier laid by Ichigo, and then they all used their own strength. After getting acquainted with it, Ryotsu was restrained. When Ichigo saw this, he pulled the barrier away, came to Yoruichi's side, took her into his arms, and said to them, "Okay. The strength has also improved, so let's go to a big meal. I invite everyone to a French restaurant for dinner." Everyone here cheered. Advertisement. Thank you so much, Ichigo, Hiriko Shinji said to Ichigo tearfully. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was stunned and asked, "Why are you crying?" And after Hiriko Shinji told Ichigo the reason, Ichigo not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Yoruichi laughed in Ichigo's arms. It turned out to be because Hiriko Shinji and the others also went to that French restaurant after they came to life, and they came out not long after they entered the first time. Because the restaurant is very etiquette, people who eat there are always they were wearing dresses, and Hiriko Shinji and the others didn't know, so they were kicked out by the doorman not long after entering, although they were also angry, but they couldn't be angry with some ordinary people, so they were learning about the rules of the store afterwards. They all went where they wore their dresses. Although they stayed longer than the first time, they were still kicked out. The reason this time was actually caused by the price of the menu. Didn't they all escape from Soul Society? So they don't have much money, although they also have part-time jobs, but that money is only enough for their usual consumption. The haute couture is definitely out of the question, so they got into a fight with the waiter and got kicked out not long after. In addition, after hearing this, the masked soldiers said with envy, "I want to be your sister, brother, too." That's right. Because others say that it's good for children to enjoy a proper amount of enjoyment, and they are a little bit young now, so do you want to start now? Ichigo said to her as a matter of course, asking her not to know how to answer. The rest of the members also wandered off after hearing Yoruichi's words, and Arisawa Tatsuki asked Ichigo, "No way. Where do you really go every week?" Yoruichi said to Arisawa, "Li Hao." Longwei said, "That's right, it's where I go every week, because I think it's good for Yuzu and Shirley to experience a better life properly." "It's impossible. Okay, let's go out to eat now." After saying that, he took Yoruichi and walked out first. Hearing this, Yoruichi smiled and said, "Of course. Our family eats somewhere once or twice a week, right, honey?" And then looked at Hiriko Shinji provocatively, and Ichigo heard this knowing what Yoruichi wants to do. Ichigo nods even though he doesn't want to hit Hiriko Shinji. After hearing Ichigo's words, Arisawa Tatsuki froze for a moment and said, "Really?" Seeing Ichigo nodding, Hiriko Shinji was hit even more, and Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Don't hit him too much." Hearing this, Yoruichi gave Ichigo a roll of eyes and said, "It's not that you cooperate with me. Here, too." Ichigo twitched the corners of his mouth. Hearing this, Ichigo was also very helpless, and then patted Yoruichi on the back and said, "Okay, stop laughing." Yoruichi stopped smiling after hearing this, but Yoruichi's face was still full of smiles. This made Hiriko Shinji very upset and said, "What are you laughing at? You think you've been there?" Then Arisawa Tatsuki went out after Ichigo, and the Kamen army went out after looking at each other. Chapter 181. On the way, Ichigo and the others had a very good atmosphere of talking and laughing on the road, and even Muguruma Kensai joined in, chatting and laughing with everyone, which surprised Ichigo and even Hiriko Shinji. "Ichigo, how did you make so much money?" Hiriko Shinji asked Ichigo at this time, and the Kamen army people looked at Ichigo very curiously, and seeing here Ichigo said, "Know what, the most important thing is to read and write books, and then you will have so much money before you know it." After Ichigo finished speaking, Hiriko Shinji got a big blow and drew circles on the side. Ignoring that, Hiriko Shinji Yadumaru Lisa asked Ichigo, "So what is a novel?" Hearing this, everyone pricked up their ears, because what is a career that can make a high school student earn so much money? What is it that makes them curious? There's nothing left, just hash hash hash, hash hash hash, hash hash hash, that's all. After saying that, the masked soldiers were stunned, while Arisawa Tatsuki asked Ichigo, "Really? Ichigo, are you the author of hash 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 these books?" Hearing Arisawa Tatsuki's surprised expression, Ichigo nodded, and then Arisawa Tatsuki was also stunned. Ichigo shook his head helplessly when he saw this scene, and then said to Yoruichi, "Why don't we go first and let them wait for 530 to come over by themselves? Anyway, they should know where it is." After Yoruichi was about to answer, they came back to their senses. Hiriko Shinji rushed up and hugged Ichigo's thigh and said, 66 I didn't expect the world's #1 fantasy novelist to be in front of me, I must be dreaming. A touch of the West, and Love Akawa also came to my side. I don't know where to take it out. The physical copy of the novel written by Ichigo said, "I hope you can sign a name for me, right here, here, here." He pointed to 3A place, but the last place is not right. He actually pointed to his chest, although Ichigo also knows that there are many crazy star-chasing people, but Ichigo has never seen it, but when he saw it, Ichigo was embarrassed. But it wasn't just the two of them that stopped. The rest of the masked corps also asked for autographs from Ichigo, and Arisawa Tatsuki said, "Ichigo, we are childhood sweethearts, and it's not funny that you don't tell me about such a thing. Sign a name here too." After that, he pointed to his own book, and Ichigo wanted to complain when he saw this scene, CGBE, because Ichigo, with his first strength under the King of Spirits, didn't have Arisawa Tatsuki's book. Where did it come from? And it's not just Arisawa Tatsuki, but several other members of the masked corps also took out a book and asked for autographs, and Ichigo saw this scene and thought, "You all colluded, right?" But Ichigo didn't ask, seeing that everyone was asking for autographs from Ichigo, and it was still on the road, in order not to be seen by others, so Ichigo had to sign them all, and then they were all satisfied, and then Ichigo said he said to them, "Okay, it should be okay now." They all nodded in unison like children when they heard this, and Ichigo didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw this. And when he saw Yoruichi who was smiling all the time, Ichigo pretended to be very angry to keep Yoruichi and said, "How dare you not save me, see how I treat you like this at night." Yoruichi who heard this looked at Ichigo provocatively and said below, "Don't be the one who surrendered first." Hearing this, Ichigo wanted to do FA rectification on the spot now, but because there were still people from the masked army in Arisawa Tatsuki, Ichigo said next to Yoruichi's ear, "Clean up at night." "You." And Yoruichi didn't seem to be afraid of Ichigo at all. He blew into Ichigo's ear, and then looked at Ichigo provocatively. Seeing this, Ichigo gritted his teeth in anger, but he held back. At night, he thought that Yoruichi must be punished severely, even if she begged for mercy, or Ichigo would be embarrassed, because now he dares to fight against himself, and so provocateurs themselves. Of course, these are just what Ichigo thinks about now. As long as Yoruichi begs for mercy, Ichigo will definitely let her go again, so just think about it. Then Ichigo adjusted his emotions and said to the people of the masked army, "Okay, let's go where we are going now, or it will be too late." When people saw it, they followed Ichigo's shunpo. Because Ichigo felt that he was walking so slowly, he didn't know when to get there. So Ichigo got impatient, so he just used shunpo to get on his way. It didn't take long for Ichigo and the others to come to the restaurant, and then the masked army and the others came, and they were only a dozen seconds behind, and the masked army people saw Ichigo's full smile and felt very happy. Is strange. Because there was some black face not long ago, but it didn't take long for the face to be full of smiles, which made the Kamen army and the others very strange, but they didn't ask why, because this matter was between Ichigo and Yoruichi. So I didn't ask much. Then Ichigo took them to the front of the restaurant, and the doorman opened the door very respectfully after seeing Ichigo and said, "Fet Bonacule Laprayans, welcome. Thank you for visiting Mr. Kurosaki again. It is the same private room as before." "What?" "No, I'm here with friends this time, and there are quite a lot of people, so choose a private room that can accommodate more than 10 people. Ichigo said to the waiter, and the waiter also respectfully ordered after hearing this. He nodded and then said, "Okay, I'll arrange it right away." After taking out a walkie-talkie and speaking in French, he gave a gesture of, "Please," and then Ichigo took the lead in pulling Yoruichi and walked, while Mask Legion followed, and Hiriko Shinji asked, "What did that person say just now?" Hearing his question, Kamen Legion shook their heads, and Arisawa Tatsuki said, "It's French." Then they asked, "Longwei, do you know?" And, "Yes, I just know, I won't say it." They nodded when they heard this, and Arisawa Tatsuki continued, "You may not know, Ichigo knows 10 languages. So powerful. Which language is it?" Atoribashi Rojiro asked in confusion, while Arisawa Tatsuki said, "Chinese, English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Arabic, German, Indian, and finally in Japanese." Everyone was stunned when they heard this, because they felt that they had lived in vain for hundreds of years, because their strength was not as good as Ichigo, their financial resources were not as good, and they were not as good as each other in terms of knowledge, which made them very lost, but it recovered immediately. Chapter 182. Sunset. And after Ichigo and the others sat down, the waiter asked, "What do you want?" and then brought the menu, and Ichigo handed the menu directly to the people in the masked army and said, "Come and order." After that, he said to the waiter, "Same as before, 2 servings." Hearing this, the waiter nodded, and then spoke some French to the walkie-talkie before continuing to look at the people in the masked legion. The masked soldiers and Arisawa Tatsuki also looked at the menu after seeing it, but the dishes on the menu were very expensive, and they are not expensive, so I don't know what to order, because I don't want to spend too much money on Ichigo, so I was hesitant and didn't know what to choose. Seeing this scene, Ichigo said helplessly, Okay, let me choose." Arisawa Tatsuki and the others also nodded after hearing this, and Ichigo looked at the waiter and said, "Just give everyone to me. Eat it often." After speaking, the waiter also said respectfully, "Understood, do you still need some drinks? Then get a bottle of that 1982 bars. After Ichigo said that, the waiter ordered all the dishes and then exited. After the waiter walked out, they all looked around curiously and said, "Is this the place to eat at a high-end restaurant? It's really high-end." And everyone else made a voice of admiration. Ichigo, who saw this scene in Yoruichi, just smiled and ignored them, and there are a lot of paintings hanging in this private room, but those of them don't understand painting at all. And they turned on the TV and watched it. Some people also picked up the magazines in the private room and looked at them. While Ichigo and Yoruichi came to the balcony very quietly and sighed at the sunset, especially Yoruichi, because she didn't know that if she hadn't met Ichigo, her what life will be like. I don't even know if she will survive in the end, because she also has a great fear of Aizen Sosuke, but now everything has changed. She now has no fear of Ichigo, but a fighting spirit. Because she also feels it is too boring now, because what she has experienced now is not difficult at all, and Yoruichi is also a person who likes excitement, so she hopes to experience exciting battles, but now she has not found a single opponent. And Ichigo said, "There is still a powerful person in this world, that is, Yohabach, the son of the Spirit King. His strength used to be the 5th order super captain. Now it has been more than 1,000 years, and his strength should have improved a lot, and before him there was also Aizen Sosuke with this Hōgyoku. When Ichigo finished talking about these people, Yoruichi said excitedly, "Let me solve these people." And Ichigo agreed with a smile after hearing it, and Ichigo and Yoruichi were doing it on the balcony, watching the sunset very happy, and then Ichigo said, "Everyone can come out and have a look. The scenery is very good." Hearing here, Hirako Shinji and Arisawa Tatsuki, they all came to the balcony. The red sunset turned them all red, and they were very happy to see the red sunset, because the red sunset made everyone's hearts calm down. Arisawa Tatsuki said, "The view is really beautiful," and Hirako Shinji also said, "The view from this place is also very nice." And Muguruma Kensai also said, "It's really good." And when they heard Muguruma Kensai's words, everyone looked at him in shock, and Muguruma Kensai was very unhappy when he saw the eyes they looked at him and said, "What, want to fight?" Then they laughed and laughed at each other, and Ichigo smiled when he saw this scene, and finally looked at their attributes. Name: Arisawa Tatsuki. Gender: female. Age: 15. Spouse: none. Potential: Super Captain Ryotsu. Captain, level 16. Zanpakuto: Sky Thunder, Bankai, Advertisement Kido, LV6. Shunpo: LV8 White Hits, LV7 / LV9 Battle Experience, LV8. Name: Hirako Shinji S** X. Male. Age: 159. Spouse: none. Potential: Captain Ryotsu. Captain, level 16, Zanpakuto, Fu-ni, Bankai. Ask for Flowers Kido, LV9 Shunpo, LV9 White Hits, LV8. / LVMAX Level Battle Experience, LV9. Name: Muguruma Kensai. Advertisement S** X. Male. Age: 156. Spouse: none. Potential: Captain. Ryotsu. Captain, level 16, Zanpakuto, Groundbreaking Wind, Bankai. Kido, LV8 Shunpo, LV9 White Hits, LVMAX Level / LV9. Combat Experience, LVMAX Level. And Ichigo, after seeing everyone's attributes, saw Arisawa Tatsuki and the others looking at the sunset, smiled and walked in with Yoruichi in his arms. Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and looked at where Arisawa Tatsuki and the others were and said, "Then let's go first, 99. And Ichigo also wants to bring these people to other worlds, so that they can also experience the elegance and abilities of other worlds. Moreover, Ichigo also wanted to improve his world, and raise the level of his world, so that everyone's strength limit was lifted. Indeed, let's go up again, because I don't want to make mistakes and cause them to be injured and killed. I don't want to," Ichigo said to Yoruichi, and Yoruichi laughed and said, "So it is. 5. Hearing this, the waiter nodded and left. "Bu. 0, I think their current strength should be good," Yoruichi said to Ichigo, and Ichigo shook his head after hearing it, and Yoruichi said, "No way, not enough with their current strength?" And it didn't take long for the waiter to come in and say, "Dinner is ready, can you serve it now?" After reading the attributes of all the people, Ichigo also felt that it was pretty good, because with their current strength, they should not end up like the original, and Ichigo would not let that happen. Because now Ichigo has a very deep friendship with all of them, so Ichigo won't let this happen. Chapter 183. Dishes. It didn't take long for the waiter to come in again, with a few people behind, each with a few dishes, and then served them one by one, and then exited after all the dishes were served. After seeing this, Ichigo said to those watching the sunset, "Okay, come here, the dishes are all here." Hearing that, everyone here looked back at the table, and when they saw the dishes on the table, they were very happy and walked in. "I didn't expect that we could also taste such top-notch dishes. It's such a blessing," Love Akawa said while looking at the dishes. "It's also thanks to Ichigo, otherwise we wouldn't have had such a chance," Hashijin said to Love Akawa. "Okay, stop talking, I want to try it right away," Kunamashiro said loudly, and sat down straight away. 530. Hirako Shinji smiled helplessly when he saw this scene, and then said, "Okay, let's all sit down and eat." After that, everyone sat down, and then looked at this French meal, excited. French cuisine is one of the famous cuisines in the world. It has been widely recognized that its delicate taste, delicious sauce and gorgeous tableware can be called an art. But after seeing the expressions of these people in the masked army, I knew that I definitely didn't understand this, and Ichigo had some understanding of these, but not thoroughly, and Yoruichi also understood something after asking Ichigo for advice, and the masked army the people who should be ignorant of these. French cooking technology has always been known around the world. French cuisine is not only delicious, but also has many kinds of dishes and unique cooking methods. The dishes ordered by Ichigo this time are all exquisite, including tender steak, tripe liver, black truffle, cheese, etc. Of course, these are only a few of the things, and there are many dishes. And after everyone sat down, Ichigo said, "Then let's have fun." Everyone devoured it, and after eating, they all said, "Wow, it's delicious." Hearing this, Ichigo also laughed. It's only because of the first time eating these things, so when the second time comes it won't taste as good as the first time. Seeing their appearance, Ichigo smiled and said, "Okay, Eat slowly, don't gobble it, and pay attention to etiquette at the French table. Hearing that, everyone here looked at Ichigo, and Ichigo said and did. Just when sitting, the body should be straight, the elbows should not be placed on the table, and the feet should not be crossed. When using a knife and fork to eat, take the knife and fork from the outside to the inside, hold the fork in the left hand and the knife in the right. When cutting things, hold the fork in the left hand and hold the food, and hold the knife in the right hand to cut it into small pieces, and then use the fork as put in the mouth. When using the knife, the blade must not point outward and... Before Ichigo finished speaking, they started to eat the same way again, and Yadomaru Lisa was much better than them. Ichigo sighed helplessly when he saw this scene and said, "Forget it, no matter what." Okay. After saying that, he ate it by himself. After seeing this, Yoruichi smiled and said, "Look, your words don't work." And Ichigo didn't care about Yoruichi's words at all, but ate on his own, and after more than 20 minutes passed finished. "If only I could eat it every day," Hirako Shinji said, patting his stomach. And Kuna Mashiro also nodded and said, "Yes, I've never eaten something so delicious." She also patted her stomach. Ichigo looked at them and said, "It's delicious, but if you eat it often, you'll get tired." After hearing this, Sarugaki Hiyori said, "Indeed, no matter what, it's delicious, if you eat too much, you'll get tired of it." The others also nodded. Then Ichigo said, "Okay, let's go first. I have already given the meal money, and when you want to go back and see for yourself, this card is for you. Buy whatever you want. The secret is #####. As soon as he finished speaking, Hirako Shinji took the card in his hand and said, "Thank you so much." And the other members of the Kamen Legion also looked at the card in Hirako Shinji's hand with bright eyes. If he is not present in the future, they should be rushing up to grab it. Advertisement. And when I saw this scene, Ichigo said, "I give you the card, not to let them spend casually, but to let you repair the warehouse and buy daily necessities by the way, and the card has 1 billion in it. After you're done, you can spend the money in the card." And after Ichigo finished speaking, everyone seemed to be frozen and motionless. And Ichigo said to them, "Hey, what's the matter?" And after that, everyone's eyes seemed to have a sun, and they looked at the card in Hirako Shinji's hand, and Hirako Shinji was also full of eyes. He looked brightly at the card in his hand. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was very helpless. I don't know if they heard it, but they had already said it, so he took Yoruichi Shunpo and left, and after the two of them Shunpo left, there was a sound of fighting from the restaurant, but Ichigo didn't care, and then Ichigo looked at the attributes of himself and Yoruichi. Name: Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku, S**X. Male age: 15. Spouse: Shihouin Yoruichi, Soul, Potential, Unlimited. Ryatsu: Super Captain, Level 25 and 11,652 100,000ths, Zanpakuto. The Perfect Zanjetsu, Final Solution. Kido: General Shunpo, General White Hits, General. Slash. General Combat Experience, General Crescent Moon Sky Chong, General. Crackling Flash, General No Moon, General Advertisement. Hollow. General Backpack. Character Fragments X11652, Intermediate Experience Beads X20000, Advanced Experience Beads X19000, Super Experience Beads X18000, Breakthrough Cards X600. Name: Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku, Gender: Female. Age: 143. 1.4 Spouse: Kurosaki Ichigo, Soul, Potential, Unlimited. Ryatsu: Super Captain, Level 25 and 11,652 100,000ths, Zanpakuto. Night Fist, Final Solution. Kido: General Combat Experience, General Slash, General. Thor: General Hollow. General Shunpo. General, I was very happy to see the attributes of myself in Yoruichi, because now I finally have the power to protect myself. Then Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and walked towards Shunpo in one direction. White Hits. General Instant Open, General Level Backpack. Character Fragments X11652, Intermediate Experience Beads X20000, Advanced Experience Beads X1900, Super Experience Beads X1800, Breakthrough Cards X600. Chapter 184. Playground. After Ichigo left with Yoruichi, the Kamen Corps made some jokes and went back. At this time, Hitsugaya Dashiro had been looking for Ichigo, because he wanted to thank Ichigo in person, so he went to Ichigo, but he couldn't find it, so Hitsugaya Dashiro also went back. And Ichigo came to a place facing Yoruichi. Yoruichi said, "Where are you going, Ichigo?" After hearing this, Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Let's go and see the base of the Quincy." Yoruichi was stunned when he heard this, and then Yoruichi's eyes flashed gold and said, "Are you going to fight?" Hearing this, Ichigo was helpless, because Ichigo felt that Yoruichi had become a fighting maniac now, so Ichigo said, "Yoruichi, I think you seem to have changed recently." "What's changed?" Yoruichi asked in confusion after hearing this, and tilted his head. Looking at Yi 26's cute appearance, Ichigo was very surprised and loving, then hugged Yoruichi tightly and said, "I think you seem to be a little warlike recently?" When Ichigo was worried and confused, Yoruichi was very funny, but when he saw Ichigo's eyes, Yoruichi drilled into Ichigo's arms, and then said coquettishly, I haven't changed at all, it's just that my character was originally it's just a little belligerent, and after his own strength is strong, he also wants an opponent to fight evenly. Hearing this, Ichigo touched Yoruichi's head with pity and said, "Really, why didn't you come to me?" When Yoruichi heard it, he pouted and said, "It's not you yet, always throwing water at me, I haven't had a good fight every time." Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, "Then I'm not doing it for you, I'm going to be angry because you're hurt," and then stroked Yoruichi's back. Advertisement in Yoruichi has been shrinking in Ichigo's arms, and Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "I see, I love you the most." After that, he kissed Ichigo, and Ichigo also bowed his head and kissed Yoruichi and said, "Me too." Then Ichigo continued to hold Yoruichi and walked towards it, and after coming to a playground, he said, "I suddenly wanted to come here to play with you, so I brought you here." Yoruichi was very happy to hear this. "Yoruichi, wait a minute, I'll go to the side to buy a ticket," Ichigo said and went to the side to buy a ticket, and because today is a day off, and it's almost night, so many people come to the amusement park, and people who buy tickets there are many people there. When I saw the place to buy tickets, although there were huge crowds, they were very orderly and lined up, and there were two lines in this queue, one was to buy a pass, and the other was to buy a package. A pass refers to a ticket that can be used in this amusement park with one ticket. You only need to buy one ticket to play all the items in it. Packages refer to combined tickets, and amusement park packages generally include amusement park tickets, surrounding hotels, performance tickets, etc. And Ichigo was a little surprised when he saw the crowd of people, because he didn't expect so many people to come here. But Ichigo didn't care about them, and then walked by himself, came to the ticket office and said, "Ticket, I booked Kurosaki Ichigo not long ago." After hearing this, the conductor looked at the reservation form, and respectfully took out 2 tickets and said, "Thank you for the advance sale." Ichigo reached out and took the tickets and said, "Thank you," then he left. And when Ichigo was walking with the ticket, most people looked at him, because the reservation ticket is very expensive, so many people came to the amusement park to buy it instead of making a reservation, so I saw that Ichigo pre-sold the ticket, they were amazed, but immediately stopped looking at him. When Ichigo came back, he knelt down on one knee and stretched out his right hand to Yoruichi. "Princess, please wait, let's go now." Yoruichi was very surprised after seeing this scene, and then after hearing Ichigo's words, he said, "Okay, my knight," and put his hand on it. After seeing the actions of Ichigo and Yoruichi, passers-by are not surprised, because this happened many times. Boys kneel down to the girls they like, and then say some very nauseous words to move the girls, and then confess. Advertisement therefore, passers-by expressed encouragement and approval for Ichigo's actions, and then Ichigo held Yoruichi's hand and stood up. The two smiled at each other and walked towards the roller coaster. Why is the first roller coaster? That's because Yoruichi and Ichigo both like exciting sports, so the two came to the entrance of the roller coaster and showed the ticket to the person who collected the ticket. After he stamped a seal on it, just let Ichigo and the two of them go in, and after entering 530, they saw that there were only 6 people in line, so there was a line in the back. A few people in front said, "I heard that this roller coaster is very exciting, 95. Really, I think it's still the same roller coaster I've been on before? But it's alright, if you're afraid, I'll always be by your side. Thank you so much." Hearing their words, Yoruichi laughed, and Ichigo also laughed, and of course Ichigo and Yoruichi also laughed softly, otherwise they would not have thought of anything when they heard Ichigo's laughter. Immediately the roller coaster came, and then Ichigo and the others all went up, and after putting the safety bar down, Ichigo said, "How do you feel?" When Yoruichi heard it, he said, "It's okay." Ichigo pouted helplessly after hearing this, and then quickly kissed Yoruichi and said, "What about now?" Yoruichi shyly said, "Yes," because Yoruichi doesn't object to intimacy with Ichigo in public, but she is still very shy, and Yoruichi's current appearance is that she has held back her shyness and pretended to be. Chapter 185. Legend. When Ichigo was about to say something, the car started, and they felt the car start to move forward little by little. They all closed their eyes in fear, but Ichigo and Yoruichi didn't have the same thing at all. After a while, the car started to climb the hill, and the person sitting in front of Ichigo actually started to sing, and Ichigo and Yoruichi laughed lightly upon hearing this. And that person encouraged himself because of the song and gave himself the courage to face it all, and Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "What do you think?" 39 And Ichigo heard it and said, "Although the singing is not very good, but the spirit it's good." As Ichigo and Yoruichi spoke, they had reached the peak, the highest point. And that person stopped singing, instead, his whole body tensed up, and seeing the contrast made Ichigo Yoruichi chuckle. In an instant, a pulling force came down, the car slid down directly towards the front, and the screaming sounded. Even Yoruichi screamed. At the beginning, Ichigo was very puzzled, why Yoruichi screamed because of this, and Yoruichi said, "You can feel it when you play like this." After hearing this, Ichigo was stunned for a while and then stopped talking, because it sounded like a good match for the game, so Ichigo didn't care. And with the screaming roller coaster, it turns in circles for a while, and it goes up and down like a bungee jump for a while, which is very exciting, and even Ichigo has a smile on his face, which is probably infected by Yoruichi. Soon the roller coaster was over. After everyone got off, Yoruichi seemed to be tired of playing and wanted to play again, but Ichigo said, "Let's play this later, let's play something else." He dragged Yoruichi and walked towards other entertainment facilities. Then Ichigo and the two played games such as speeding windmill, jumping machine, haunted house, etc. Yoruichi kept holding Ichigo's arm, and sometimes, like an ordinary girl, he got into Ichigo's arms as scared. The last thing they want to play is the Ferris wheel. Why should it be defined as the last one? That's because there is a legend about the Ferris wheel. Lovers who ride on the Ferris wheel together will eventually end up breaking up. But when the Ferris wheel reaches its highest point, if you kiss your lover, it will go on forever. Legend has it that every box of the Ferris wheel is filled with happiness. When we look up at the Ferris wheel, we are looking up at how high happiness is, and how high the Ferris wheel is. When we long for happiness but happiness has not come at the time of the day, try to sit on the Ferris wheel and wait for it to slowly rise until it reaches the top, overlooking everything we see. In fact, the happiness we want is very simple. From there, people are very small. I believe that although the world is big, there is always a simple happiness that belongs to us. So, when we feel unhappy, we try to ride the Ferris wheel and wait for the so-called height of happiness, they say. Those who look at the Ferris wheel are looking at happiness. Foo. So although Ichigo doesn't know if this legend is right or not, it doesn't prevent Ichigo from doing this to Yoruichi. So Ichigo took Yoruichi to the Ferris wheel and looked up at the Ferris wheel very happy, because it's already night. So Ferris wheel, the lights on the wheel are very beautiful, and Yoruichi is also very happy and said, "It's really beautiful." Although Yoruichi has followed Ichigo to play here before, but this does not prevent Yoruichi from liking it here, and then Ichigo smiled and said, "If you want this, I will get it for you." Yoruichi is very happy to hear this, and Ichigo continued in Yoruichi's ear, no matter how difficult, and kissed Yoruichi's face. Advertisement. Then Ichigo and Yoruichi also came to where they started to line up. Although there were quite a lot of people in front of them, they were less than before, so Ichigo hugged Yoruichi and talked about love there. Yoruichi was a little shy under Ichigo's love words, but he responded boldly to Ichigo, and Ichigo was also very happy. Then Ichigo kept saying a lot of love words to Yoruichi, and soon the Ferris wheel came to the top, and Ichigo said to Yoruichi emotionally, "I love you forever." Yoruichi also said to Ichigo very emotionally, "I'm just your woman all my life." I heard that Ichigo kissed Yoruichi directly, and Yoruichi also responded to Ichigo, and fireworks started to be set off outside. This scene is very beautiful. After going up, Ichigo picked up Yoruichi and said to her, "You know what? The secret of the Ferris wheel?" And Yoruichi looked at Ichigo with some doubts. Seeing this scene, Ichigo smiled and talked about the secret of the Ferris wheel now, because Yoruichi has always been in Soul Society. She doesn't know some things in reality, so it's nothing. After listening to what Ichigo said, Yoruichi was very excited and said, "So there is such a legend." And why Yoruichi is excited, it is because this means that Ichigo loves her very much, so Yoruichi is happy. Then Yoruichi snuggled into Ichigo's arms and said, "Then we can always be together as long as we follow this legend." Hearing Yoruichi's question, Ichigo smeared Yoruichi's nose affectionately and said, "This is me too." Can't be sure, because no one can be sure. After doing it according to this legend, we can be together forever, so this is just speculation. Soon the Ferris wheel went down, and Ichigo and Yoruichi also played with the playground equipment, so Ichigo said, "Go back now." Yoruichi nodded and agreed. And after Ichigo kissed, it was fascinating to hold Yoruichi and watch the fireworks outside. And this, Li Hao, scene is very beautiful, so I took a picture of this scene with my mobile phone with fireworks as the background. Every time Ichigo and Yoruichi went to a place, they went to take a picture of the last place, because it was Ichigo and their memories. Soon to Ichigo and Yoruichi they got on the Ferris wheel. After giving the ticket to the ticket collector, Ichigo and Yoruichi got on. Hearing this, Yoruichi was very disappointed, and Ichigo smiled when he saw this scene and said, "It's alright. Anyway, whether this is true or not, we have to be together, right?" Yoruichi said with a smile after hearing Ichigo's words. "Yes, no matter what, I will not leave you with Ichigo." Ichigo and Yoruichi did not return to the Kamen Corps base this time, but went to the private house of Ichigo and Yoruichi. Ichigo likes this house very much, so when I go to other worlds, Ichigo wants to take this house with me, so all the materials of this house are repurchased by Ichigo and rebuilt with better materials than this one. But it still didn't meet the expectations in Ichigo's mind, so Ichigo hopes that after his strength is strong, he will use his own strength to strengthen the house. Chapter 186. The Butterfly Effect. And after Ichigo and Yoruichi came to the house, they were very happy to see their well-decorated house, and Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "This house is fine, I found a few more people to modify it." When Yoruichi heard this, he looked at the design in the house and said, "It's very nice, I like it very much," and Ichigo started to go crazy after hearing it. Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and said, "I love you so much," and Ichigo said to Yoruichi very emotionally after hearing this, "You are my angel, and I will love you with what I do. It's my luck to meet you," Yoruichi said firmly to Ichigo, but Ichigo kissed Yoruichi directly after hearing it, and didn't let her go until Yoruichi couldn't breathe. "Do you know what I said? Because it is my luck to meet you." Then he kissed Yoruichi's forehead, severely. Seal. 533 later, when Ichigo was about to come to him, Yoruichi stopped Ichigo and said, "What?" And Ichigo said, Of course I punish myself, because I actually hurt the person I love the most, so for the sake of course I'm going to beat myself up." Yoruichi was also stunned when he heard this. That won't work. If I just let this thing go, then I'll be beaten in vain, right? Yoruichi said confidently, but Ichigo was stunned, because it wasn't that he just pointed at her lightly. Do you have a forehead? You don't need it. But seeing Yoruichi's tearful eyes, Ichigo nodded. As soon as Ichigo agreed, the tears in Yoruichi's eyes disappeared, which made Ichigo stunned. When Yoruichi saw Ichigo's appearance, he said, "You don't want to go back on it." Then there were tears in his eyes, which directly blinded Ichigo's eyes, and then Ichigo saw Yoruichi's tears falling down. After kissing Yoruichi's eyes very pitifully, he wiped away the tears from Yoruichi's eyes. Then Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "You can't cry anymore, you know?" Before Yoruichi said anything, he continued, "Because seeing your tears fall, it's like my heart is dripping blood, so no matter what the situation is, don't cry anymore, okay?" Hearing this, Yoruichi knew that he had really gone too far, so he shrank into Ichigo's arms, and then said very carefully, "I'm sorry, Ichigo, I will never do this again," looking at Ichigo. When Ichigo saw Yoruichi's firm eyes, he smiled and said to Yoruichi, "I don't care if you are kidding me or what, but I will never allow you to cry again." Advertisement Yoruichi then started again with Ichigo. On the other side, inside, Hueco Mundo, after learning about Ichigo's strength, Aizen Sosuke didn't have a clue about his current strength, so he was ready to learn more about Hōgyoku's ability to improve his own strength, hoping to be able to match Ichigo's strength. Because, CGBE, the opponent he created by himself, has actually been ahead of him by so many steps. Although this made Aizen Sosuke very happy, he was also shocked. The opponent he created was actually so powerful that he was even more nervous, so he desperately hoped that he could study it from Hōgyoku. But I don't know if it's because of the butterfly effect or what, Aizen Sosuke really learned from Hōgyoku, the ability to improve his own strength, and then Aizen Sosuke said with a smile, "So this is the real power of Hōgyoku. I don't understand Hōgyoku's ability at all, but using it like that is really overkill." And Aizen Sosuke, after learning the real way to use Hōgyoku, used it on himself first to improve his spiritual body. This improvement is no longer Ryatsu's improvement, and then a comprehensive improvement, regardless of potential or spiritual body. The quality has been greatly improved. This upgrade has made Aizen Sosuke's potential stronger to become a super captain, and his strength has also broken through into a super captain. Although it is only the first rank, the improvement is already very good. After Aizen Sosuke summed up his own promotion, he looked up at the sky and said, "Wait, Kurosaki Ichigo, I'll catch up with you right away." After saying that, Aizen Sosuke left, because his current although the strength has increased, the strength of his own subordinates should also be improved, otherwise how can he do things for him? And this kind of thing, not only happened in Hueco Mundo, but even the strength of the Shinigami captain in Soul Society has been improved, and even the Shinigami in the present world, the Quincy, and the Fullbringer have been improved. This is probably because the protagonist of the world, Kurosaki Ichigo's strength has increased too fast, so the will of the world has also increased the strength of the rest of the people. The seal of the battle of Yoruichi and Ichigo I. After waking up, Ichigo watched Yoruichi for the next dozens of minutes, fascinated and not at all bored. Chapter 187. Leisurely soon Yoruichi also woke up, and saw Ichigo staring at her all the time, which made her happy and shy, and then pouted and said, "I'm already awake, why didn't you wake me up?" And Ichigo didn't answer when he heard this, but kissed Yoruichi directly. Then, after kissing for a few minutes, he said to her, "Do you know now?" Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and shook his head, and then Ichigo started to kiss Yoruichi again, this time for a longer time. Once for a long time, then let go of Yoruichi when she was out of breath, and then asked again, "What about now?" This time Yoruichi nodded hurriedly, not knowing if Yoruichi understood, so he nodded. But Ichigo didn't ask again, but looked at Yoruichi and said, "I just want to make this moment a little longer." Yoruichi immediately understood what Ichigo meant when he heard this, and then Yoruichi said to Ichigo coquettishly, "You really make me so moved," and then shrank in Ichigo's arms. Then Ichigo patted Yoruichi's back, and said to Yoruichi, "Okay, now I'm going to get up, you should get ready." After speaking, Ichigo got up, and Ichigo's move directly made Yoruichi groan again. Because Ichigo and Yoruichi were still together, then Ichigo laughed, and Yoruichi looked at Ichigo complainingly and said, "It's all your fault," and Ichigo smiled and kissed Yoruichi's forehead, then towards the bathroom, gone. And after Ichigo and Yoruichi had both washed up, Ichigo went to prepare breakfast, and Yoruichi started to tidy up the room, tidying up all the traces left by the battle between the two of them yesterday. "Yoruichi, breakfast is ready. Let's eat," Ichigo shouted to Yoruichi, and Yoruichi replied sweetly, "I see, my dear, I'll be there right away," and put all the dishes in Ichigo. When it was placed on the dining table, Yoruichi also came. Yoruichi fell directly into Ichigo's arms and said to Ichigo, "Honey, I've cleaned up." As if taking credit, he looked at Ichigo very happily, and Ichigo stroked Yoruichi's head after seeing it. Then he kissed Yoruichi's lips and said, "Okay, let's eat." Then he sat Yoruichi on his lap, and Ichigo started to feed Yoruichi. After eating Ichigo's meal, Yoruichi said happily, "Honey, what you cook is delicious," and Ichigo smiled and said, "If it's delicious, eat more." Yoruichi said, "Well," with a sigh, "I started eating the food that Ichigo fed me." The meals were quickly eaten, and then Ichigo started clearing the dishes, while Yoruichi watched TV and ate lollipops. I don't know why, Yoruichi became addicted to lollipops after eating a lollipop once, and there were several bags of lollipops in the house and in the system space. Ichigo smiled after knowing it. Not much. Ask. After Ichigo finished packing, he came to Yoruichi and saw that she was watching TV intently, so he picked her up. Ichigo sat in her original position, then held her on his body and accompanies her. She watched TV. Advertisement. Is it true that all women like to watch soap operas? Even someone as powerful as Yoruichi likes to watch it. This is what surprised Ichigo when he first learned about it, but he immediately slowed down and watched TV with her. On the other side, in the base of Kamen Legion, because they got the card Ichigo gave them yesterday, they all went shopping last night, bought the things they always wanted to buy, and then used the remaining money. They replaced everything in the base with new ones, and they even started repairing the warehouse. For flowers, on this side, because Ichigo's card is about to start fighting, and the initiator is lying at home with a beautiful woman and watching TV. If the people in the masked army know that even if Ichigo is strong, they will fight him desperately. Then they started to talk about it, and even Muguruma Kensai joined in. Of course, a big meal, and after Hiriko Shinji was beaten, seeing the scene of their discussion, he was very sad and said, "I don't have enough friends in the discussion." But they didn't listen to Hiriko Shinji's words at all, and the discussion became even more intense, as if it was about to start without a deal. Seeing this scene, Hiriko Shinji thought to himself, "Fortunately, I don't want them to be greedy for money," and at this time Hiriko Shinji began to rejoice. "Shinji, do you have any money left over from Ichigo?" Yadomaru Lisa asked Hiriko Shinji, while Hiriko Shinji was very uneasy and pressed the place where he put the card and said, "There is not much money in the card, save it now, do you know?" No, this is too wasteful, why don't you buy some magazines to read?" And Sarugaki Hiyori said directly to Hiriko Shinji, "Bald, what are you doing so precious, you don't want to swallow it alone?" Hearing this, everyone stared at Hiriko Shinji dangerously. And Hiriko Shinji was very frightened when he saw their eyes, and then forced his anger and said to her, "Hiyori, you actually said that, I think you want to swallow it alone." Hiriko Shinji slammed his hat directly at Sarugaki on Hiyori, and she was directly angry and slapped Hiriko Shinji with her shoes. Then he picked up the card and went to the masked army except for the people who Hiriko Shinji thought and kissed them. What will you do with the remaining money? Chapter 188. Aizen Sosuke and Ichigo. And Aizen Sosuke in Hueco Mundo has started to improve the strength of the Arankars below him since his strength has been greatly improved. Aizen Sosuke also raised Arankar's strength by rank. Although he can improve more, he feels that it is not good to improve too much, because they can do a lot of things with their strength now, so they also that's it. The Arankars whose strength has been improved are all excited, because their strength has been improved, and the Virtual is a group that pursues strength, so they are very happy with the improvement of strength, and Neliel Toodleschwank, Coyote Stark and Ulquiorra Cypher. These pursuits are very different. 5, 3, falsehoods are only a few. And after their strength was improved, Grimjow Jaegerjaquez first shouted loudly, "Ha ha ha, with my current strength, I can avenge Kurosaki Ichigo." And when he heard this, Ulquiorra Cypher said aloud, "You can't be Lord Kurosaki's opponent, so don't do stupid things," he said very calmly. But Grimjow Jaegerjaquez was very angry and said to Ulquiorra Cypher, "What did you say? Ulquiorra, don't think you are number 4 and I'm afraid of you." Grimjow Jaegerjaquez was about to start a fight. And Ulquiorra Cypher said calmly, "What I said is the truth." Grimjow Jaegerjaquez was even more angry when he heard this, and when he was about to do it, Aizen Sosuke said, "Okay, Grimjow." And Grimjow Jaegerjaquez stopped talking when he heard Aizen Sosuke's words. Although he is stronger now, he is still very afraid of Aizen Sosuke, so Grimjow Jaegerjaquez is silent. But Aizen Sosuke went on to say, "Kurosaki Ichigo is not someone you can be your opponents. His opponent is only me, you know, so I hope you will not be foolish to oppose him in the future." After listening to Aizen Sosuke's words, although it was unpleasant, but they also knew their weight, so they nodded and agreed. And Ichigo is still with Yoruichi in this world, and it is very sweet. If Aizen Sosuke knows this, he may be very disappointed with Ichigo. Because it is impossible for people who are too addicted to other substances to become strong. This is the belief that Aizen Sosuke has always adhered to, so in the original work, Aizen Sosuke will directly attack Hinamori Momo, and Ichigo also learned about Aizen Sosuke from here. For people. Advertisement, it is undeniable that he is indeed a character, a hero. And in the original world of Ichigo, he was rated as orator, calligrapher, conspirator, careerist, sophist, scientist, psychologist, philosopher, statesman, strategist, and also in the Shinigami world. One of the most powerful boss, although the strength is not as strong as the right Yohabach, but his strong strength and handsome appearance have a high popularity among female fans of Shinigami. His slashing, footwork, Kido, white hits are absolutely top-notch. Moreover, the strength is incredible, and it is effortless to deal with captain-level opponents. These are the evaluations of Aizen Sosuke in the original Ichigo world. Although there are many more, it is still important to pick the key points. For the time being, there are only so many. And Aizen is indeed worthy of his title. After Ichigo came to this world, after seeing Aizen Sosuke, he admired him very much, and Ichigo also became close friends with Aizen Sosuke, and then traveled across the world, but he still gave up, because every tyrant will not surrender to others easily, so Ichigo gave up the idea. Aizen Sosuke is busy improving the strength of the Arankars in Hōgyoku Mundo, and Ichigo is still sweet with Yoruichi. This scene may make all men jealous of Ichigo. Yoruichi and Ichigo are lying on the sofa and playing games, while Yoruichi is lying on Ichigo's body, playing games with Ichigo intensely. Ichigo and Yoruichi are playing a new racing game, although it is a bit childish, but as long as Yoruichi is happy, what does Ichigo will do? While playing the game, Yoruichi keeps losing, which makes Yoruichi very unconvinced and said, "You cheated." And when I heard this, Ichigo was stunned, because he was just playing a fair game with Yoruichi. How could he possibly cheat? So Ichigo asked, "How did I cheat?" "You're cheating, just because I'm not good at the game in this world, so you bully me." And Ichigo laughed when he heard it, and Yoruichi bit Ichigo's shoulder angrily. It hurts a bit, but Ichigo enjoys it because Ichigo thinks this is what couples are like. If there is not even a little fight between the partners, then the relationship between them is about to come to an end. Therefore, Ichigo and Yoruichi always have some small fights between them, which also makes them know each other better, so that they can more accurately guess each other's thoughts, and can know each other's decision from a glance. So a 1.4 protection. The relationship with Yoruichi is very good now. And Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Okay, it's just a game, don't be so serious." And Yoruichi pouted and looked at Ichigo after hearing this. And Ichigo smiled and kissed Yoruichi when he saw this scene, and Yoruichi, I was not unhappy anymore, and my face immediately turned red. When Ichigo saw Yoruichi's appearance, she let go of her, and then said to Yoruichi, "Is this still the case in the future?" Yoruichi didn't respond at all, and then blushed and flattened her head to the side, no longer looking at Ichigo, and Ichigo seeing this scene, I didn't want to let Yoruichi go, so I kissed Yoruichi directly, and then kept repeating. Chapter 189. Preparation. The next day, Ichigo got up and kissed Yoruichi before heading to the kitchen. After Ichigo turned around, Yoruichi opened his eyes slightly and peeked at Ichigo, and the actions just now were in Yoruichi's eyes, so Yoruichi felt very happy. And I thought in my heart, if I didn't meet Ichigo, it would be my biggest regret. So Yoruichi is always nice to Ichigo, and I hope I can find more women in the future. All men hope that their lover can have this idea, but this is only a few people, and Ichigo also knew what Yoruichi was thinking, but Ichigo immediately refused firmly and said, "The only one I love is you." Yoruichi was even more moved after hearing this, so it can be said that Ichigo can give his all. Of course Ichigo wouldn't let Yoruichi give his life to him. Then, under Yoruichi's eyes full of love, Ichigo walked into the kitchen, and when she couldn't see Ichigo, she turned her eyes to the hall, and saw the messy look of the hall. Yoruichi's eyes flashed a little shy, but immediately again a look of love and happiness appeared. Then Yoruichi got up and was about to clean up the place, and the sound of Ichigo cooking was heard in the kitchen. Then Yoruichi started to clean up the hall with a happy face. Soon Yoruichi finished cleaning up the hall. With Yoruichi's study, Yoruichi has made great progress in housework, so Yoruichi's speed of doing housework becomes very fast. And of course, Ichigo in the kitchen heard the voice coming from the hall, so Ichigo laughed and started cooking again. And after Yoruichi finished cleaning up, he came to the kitchen and looked at Ichigo where he was busy cooking with a look of happiness on his face, and while cooking, Ichigo said, "Since I'm done, let's watch TV for a while, the meal will be ready soon." After saying that, he concentrated on cooking again, and Yoruichi left after hearing that. Of course she went in the direction where Ichigo was, and then Yoruichi picked up Ichigo's back and buried his face on Ichigo's back, and after Ichigo felt it, he put down the movement of his hand, and then put Yoruichi's back. He hugged his hands and said, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, it's just that I don't want to leave you for a minute and a second," Yoruichi said to Ichigo, and when Ichigo heard it, he turned and hugged Yoruichi in his arms, then touched Yoruichi's hair and said, "Okay. Then we two together. Let's cook." After you heard it, he was very happy with it. "Yeah." And then Ichigo and Yoruichi started cooking together, and soon Ichigo and Yoruichi finished cooking, and the breakfast was 4 bacon, 4 fritters, 2 fried eggs and 2 bowls of milk. Advertisement. And after putting all these on the table, Ichigo sat down with Yoruichi, and Yoruichi sat very close to Ichigo, as if there was no gap at all. And Ichigo smiled when he saw it, and then picked up the knife and fork and said, "Let's start eating." After that, he started to eat, and Yoruichi also fed his meal to Ichigo, and Ichigo looked at afterwards, because Yoruichi looked at him, he reluctantly accepted, and Ichigo also gave Yoruichi his own meal, because he was afraid that Yoruichi would be hungry after she ate all the food for himself. Soon Ichigo came out of the kitchen, and Yoruichi ran to Ichigo after seeing it, and then jumped towards Ichigo, and Ichigo was a little helpless to see this scene, but still caught Yoruichi, because Ichigo didn't want Yoruichi to hurt. And Yoruichi started to prepare things to go to Hōgyoku Mundo, and Ichigo started to prepare his own things. After Ichigo and Yoruichi put all the prepared things into system space, they're going to go to Kamen Legion, tell them, and then go to Hōgyoku Mundo. When Yoruichi heard it, he nodded without thinking and said, "Okay, I also want to go to Hōgyoku Mundo for a turn." And Ichigo nodded with a smile after hearing it. And seeing this, Ichigo didn't say anything to Yoruichi anymore, and then said to Yoruichi, "Want to go to Hōgyoku Mundo? With me? Yoruichi looked at Yi 533 in confusion after hearing this, and Ichigo knew Yoruichi's doubts, so Ichigo said, I don't want to kill Aizen now, but I want to go to Hōgyoku Mundo, because Soul Society has been there, and Hōgyoku Mundo has not been there, so I hope to take a trip to Hōgyoku Mundo. Then Ichigo and Yoruichi quickly came to the Kamen Legion base, and Ichigo was very happy to see the new warehouse, and then went in and saw all the people of the Kamen Legion, and even the warehouse was the same as the previous one. God, one place. And in the process of Yoruichi feeding Ichigo, the meal was soon finished, and Yoruichi's meal entered Ichigo's stomach, and Ichigo's meal entered Yoruichi's belly. Since I don't know how long I'm going to be there, I should tell them about it. After catching it, he scratched at Yoruichi's nose and said, really, don't be so naughty anymore, you know? Yoruichi stuck out his tongue at Ichigo after hearing this, and then nodded. Then Ichigo let Yoruichi sit on the sofa and watch TV, while he took the dishes into the kitchen and washed them. Although Yoruichi wanted to help Ichigo, Ichigo refused, so Yoruichi had to listen to Ichigo and watch TV. Chapter 190. Hōgyoku Mundo. The people of the Masked Legion, after seeing Ichigo and Yoruichi coming back, came up to greet them, and Hiriko Shinji came directly in front of Ichigo, with teary eyes and signs of being abused, and then hugged Ichigo. Ichigo kicked Hiriko Shinji away in disgust when it came to the legs. Then he said apologetically, sorry, it's disgusting, and after being kicked, Hiriko Shinji said loudly, even you treat me like this, Ichigo, we used to be such good friends, but we are both close friends. Like a real brother, I didn't expect to do this to me now, Where did Hiriko Shinji say a lot, and Ichigo was full of black lines after hearing it. Because it's okay to say that we are friends, but to say that we are close to brothers? We are not that good, so Ichigo turned a little dark and said, I was going to give you some sponsorship, but I look at you, let's forget your share. Then he took out a card. And Hiriko Shinji was petrified when he heard this, and the rest of the Kamen Corps were very happy to hear it, and Sarugaki Hiyori came directly to Ichigo, looked at Ichigo and said, how many are there? After hearing this, Ichigo raised his hand to form a fist, and seeing this, everyone was stunned, and then became happy again. Because it's a billion. Can they be unhappy? And Hiriko Shinji can't get his share, so they're happy, and Yadomaru Lisa asks Ichigo, what about Shinji's share, 55 feet? After hearing this, Ichigo said, let's give it to you. He gave the card to Yadomaru Lisa, and Hiriko Shinji started to flatter Yadomaru Lisa after seeing this scene, hoping to continue this game to get his share of the money, but Yadomaru Lisa ignored him at all. Instead, I came to Muguruma Kensai and discussed with them how to use the money, and Hiriko Shinji had to stare at them dryly, there was no way. At this time, Ichigo coughed, and everyone stopped discussing each other, and then Ichigo said, I have one more thing to do this time, I want to go to Hōgyoku Mundo with Yoruichi, so I came to tell you. The people who heard the masked army here were stunned because they couldn't understand why Ichigo went to Hōgyoku Mundo. Muguruma Kensai asks, why where to go now? While the rest of the people nodded after hearing Muguruma Kensai's question, Ichigo said, it's actually to go shopping. Hearing that everyone here was even more stunned, Ichigo and Yoruichi went to Hōgyoku Mundo because they wanted to travel somewhere? It's because Soul Society has been there and I haven't visited Hōgyoku Mundo, so I feel a little pity, so I want to visit Hōgyoku Mundo and see how Aizen is doing now. Ichigo after that, he came to the sofa and sat down, and Yoruichi also sat directly next to Ichigo. And after everyone came to their senses, Hiriko Shinji looked at Ichigo sitting on the sofa and said, are you going? Ichigo said directly, yes, advertisement. After hearing Ichigo's firm words, everyone didn't speak, and then Hiriko Shinji immediately laughed and said, then let's go. Anyway, with Ichigo's strength, Aizen is not his opponent. Everyone remembered Ichigo after hearing this. It is a very magical ability that can be used to help others improve their strength. With such an ability, Ichigo's strength must be terrifying now, and even Aizen is no match for Ichigo. When everyone thought about it, they stopped worrying about Ichigo and Yoruichi, and then they all greeted Ichigo and Yoruichi one by one and told them to be careful on the road. Then Ichigo walked away with Yoruichi Shunpo in his arms, and Hiriko Shinji saw that Ichigo and Yoruichi were gone and said, I don't know what Aizen is doing now. If Ichigo is offended, he should be dead. And everyone in the masked army nodded, and then Hiriko Shinji quickly rushed towards Yadomaru Lisa and said, Lisa, give me mine. Yadomaru Lisa didn't react, but Muguruma Kensai reacted and punched Hiriko Shinji away with a direct fist. After being knocked out, Hiriko Shinji thought, what a familiar scene. Then it was installed on the wall and inlaid, and the rest of the members started talking again. Yoruichi also nodded after hearing this, although it is not as hot as the desert, but the desert looks exactly like the desert, and Yoruichi said, well, this has always been a corner of Hōgyoku Mundo. It may be different, the place is very nice. After Ichigo and Yoruichi came out of the Kamen Legion's base, they came to the sea, and Ichigo raised Tensuzanjetsu and cut the void, and then Ichigo hugged Yoruichi in the form of a princess and walked in. But after stepping out, all he saw was a barren land, with desert-like barren ground and high rock cliffs. Seeing the terrain here, Ichigo said helplessly, so, Hōgyoku Mundo, it's like a desert. Hearing this, Ichigo also felt that it made sense, so after feeling it for a while, he hugged Yoruichi and walked in one direction. After Ichigo and Yoruichi left, a figure appeared, an Arrancar, with lake green hair, golden green eyes, rose-colored horizontal lines on his face, and his forehead extending to the right side of his nose. Scars. Arrancar's skull mask covers his head, and there are two Arrancars with moderate points on their bodies that are similar to stag beetles and strange-faced big eyes. If Ichigo had seen the three Arrancars, they would have known that they were Neliel-2 Odelschwank and her subordinates. And after Ichigo left, Neliel-2 Odelschwank said, "It was so dangerous that Shinigami almost found it," and the other two Arrancars nodded. And the reason why Ichigo didn't notice them is because Ichigo didn't probe where they were at all, and it can be said that Ichigo didn't think that there would be a few Arrancars in the sand pile at all, so he didn't probe. This also makes Ichigo miss, but even if Ichigo finds them, Ichigo will not shoot them, because Ichigo also likes Neliel-2 Odelschwank in the original book. After entering the Broken World, Ichigo carried Yoruichi to the exit of the Broken World at a very fast speed, and then said to Yoruichi, "Going in, Yoruichi." And Yoruichi also said, and then Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Take him out."